For thousands of years, the world has been home to secrets that defy explanation, whispers of forgotten civilizations, lost knowledge, and artifacts that suggest our ancestors knew more than we could ever understand. What if the mysteries we think we've solved are just the surface of a much deeper enigma? From strange symbols carved into ancient stone to cities buried beneath the sands of time, these puzzles have withstood the test of centuries, challenging every belief we hold about history. Tonight, we dive into 3 hours of the most bizarre and chilling mysteries that still baffle the experts. Are you ready to uncover what lies beneath? Beneath the bustling streets of Paris, a hidden world lies forgotten by most, an eerie labyrinth of stone that stretches for miles under the city's heart. The Catacombs of Paris, a name that alone conjures images of darkness, secrecy, and death. Yet, as one descends into these silent, forgotten tunnels, it becomes impossible to ignore the strange and unsettling feeling that the city above, so vibrant and alive, is a mere echo of a deeper, older Paris, a Paris that dwells in the shadows, where history, burial, and mystery converge. Originally quarries, these subterranean passageways began to take their current form in the late 18th century, when overcrowded cemeteries became a public health hazard. Bones from the city's graveyards were transferred here in a mass exhumation, creating the macabre ossuary that now lies beneath the city's streets. By the end of the 18th century, human remains, an estimated 6 million, were stacked high in neatly arranged piles, forming one of the most unsettling yet strangely captivating places on Earth. The catacombs, for all their grim nature, serve as an eerie reminder of the past. Yet the deeper you go, the more questions arise. Beyond the remains, something else lingers in the air, something elusive and unexplained. What secrets do these tunnels hold? Why, over the centuries, have so many been drawn to this dark underworld? The answers lie somewhere between historical fact and whispered legend, in a place where reality and myth blur. To understand the catacombs fully, we must first consider their history. The bones stored here are not just the remains of the dead, they are the collective history of Paris itself. The people buried in the catacombs were not merely the victims of disease or war, they were soldiers, clergy, peasants, and royalty, each one a part of the story of the city. In the 18th and 19th centuries, Paris was a rapidly changing city, with shifts in politics, religion, and society. The cemeteries overflowed, and what had once been a sacred resting place for the dead became a health crisis, prompting the decision to transport the bodies to these forgotten quarries. But while this was a practical solution to an urgent problem, it raises questions that remain unanswered to this day. Why were the bones arranged with such care, sometimes in intricate patterns and designs? Could this have been a deliberate attempt to honor the dead, or were there other, more mysterious forces at work? Among the many questions that surround the catacombs, one of the most persistent is the question of what lies deeper within. While the public is allowed access to only a small fraction of the tunnels, many more miles of underground passageways remain off-limits, sealed behind locked gates or hidden in plain sight. Over the years, explorers have ventured far beyond the usual tour routes, uncovering forgotten chambers and hidden rooms. Some claim to have stumbled upon strange markings, ancient symbols, or signs that suggest the catacombs may have served a purpose beyond burial, perhaps as a refuge for secret societies, a sanctuary for the occult, or even as the site of something far older, far more enigmatic. The legends of these deeper, uncharted regions of the catacombs are enough to fuel speculation. Some believe that the tunnels are not just a burial ground, but the remnants of a forgotten civilization, perhaps dating back to ancient times. Could these underground chambers predate the Paris we know? Could they have been used for purposes we cannot begin to understand? Rituals, ceremonies, or even knowledge lost to the ages? Others speak of strange phenomena occurring within the catacombs. Inexplicable sounds, fleeting glimpses of shadowy figures, or feelings of being watched, even when alone. Some explorers have reported hearing footsteps echoing behind them, only to turn and find no one there. Is this the result of the human mind reacting to the oppressive environment? Or something more, something beyond our understanding, lurking in the shadows? And then there are the more mysterious accounts. Stories of those who have entered the catacombs and never returned. While many of these tales are likely the result of exaggeration, there are those who claim to have found the bones of explorers lost to the labyrinthine depths. What happened to them? Did they become lost in the maze? Or did something else, something far darker, claim them? As we stand on the edge of the catacombs, peering into the abyss, we are left with more questions than answers. The bones, the tunnels, and the stories, they all seem to whisper something to us, something we are not yet ready to hear. What exactly is hidden within these dark passageways, waiting to be discovered? Are we, like those who walked these halls centuries ago, just a brief moment in the long, unfolding mystery of the catacombs? The truth remains out of reach, tucked away in the silence of the tunnels, waiting for those brave enough to seek it, and for the questions that remain unanswered to keep echoing in the dark. As we leave behind the eerie corridors of the catacombs, let us shift our gaze to another corner of the world, another place where secrets lie buried beneath the sands of time. Here, amid the endless expanse of the Egyptian desert, lies a tale as old as the pharaohs themselves. The lost golden city of Egypt, an ancient metropolis whose name echoes through history, shrouded in mystery and whispers of a curse that still lingers to this day. It was 2020 when a team of archaeologists, led by the renowned Egyptologist Zahi Hawass, uncovered the remnants of what is now known as the Lost Golden City. The site, located near Luxor, close to the Valley of the Kings, had remained hidden for over 3,000 years. The discovery of this lost city, its streets, homes, and workshops so remarkably preserved, sent shockwaves through the world of archaeology. But with it came an unsettling question. Was this city really lost, or was it deliberately forgotten? The Lost Golden City, so named for its connection to the reign of Amenhotep III, the pharaoh who ruled Egypt from around 1391 to 1353 BC, is not merely a forgotten settlement. It is a time capsule, offering an unprecedented glimpse into the daily life of ancient Egyptians. As the team unearthed the site, they revealed a sprawling urban landscape filled with well-preserved structures, mud brick walls, pottery, jewelry, and tools. It was a thriving city, bustling with activity, home to artisans, craftsmen, and even soldiers, all living under the shadow of one of Egypt's most powerful pharaohs. But despite the wealth of historical evidence that this city once existed, questions persist about why it vanished from memory. Did it fall into disuse after Amenhotep III's reign, as is often assumed? Or is there something more at play here? Something darker? Something that suggests this city's disappearance was not simply the result of natural decay or political shifts. As the excavation continued, the team uncovered more pieces of the puzzle, detailed artifacts that hinted at the city's significance. Jewelry inscribed with the names of pharaohs, large workshops where gold and other precious metals were worked, and even pottery with inscriptions revealing connections to the royal family. Everything pointed to the Lost Golden City being a center of immense wealth and power. Yet, despite these finds, there is something eerie about the way the city seems to have vanished. Some archaeologists believe the city may have been abandoned after the death of Amenhotep III, perhaps due to the rise of his successor Akhenaten, whose radical changes to Egyptian religion and culture are well documented. Akhenaten's decision to shift Egypt's focus from the pantheon of gods to the worship of a single deity, the sun god Aten, caused profound upheaval. Could this upheaval have caused the city's decline, as people sought to distance themselves from the old ways of worship? Or was the city buried in the sands of time, forgotten by history until its rediscovery, its very existence a victim of political and religious change? But the mystery of the lost Golden City does not end with the discovery of its remains. There is, in fact, a darker layer to this story, one that has intrigued archaeologists and treasure hunters alike for centuries: the curse that supposedly hangs over the city. The idea of a curse surrounding ancient Egyptian sites is not a new one. Most famously, the tomb of Tutankhamun has been linked to a curse, with numerous deaths among those who disturbed the pharaoh's tomb, fueling popular legend. But in the case of the lost Golden City, the curse is more insidious, lingering not only in the legend, but in the dangerous circumstances surrounding its rediscovery. While no definitive curse has been identified, the excavation team was not immune to the strange occurrences that have marked this site since its uncovering. The discovery itself was nothing short of remarkable, but it was also accompanied by a series of unusual events. Some team members reported experiencing sudden, unexplained illnesses, while others spoke of strange dreams and visions, often involving the figures of ancient priests or the shadowy presence of long-dead rulers. Was this simply the effect of the harsh desert environment, or was there something more unsettling at play? Even more curious is the presence of a peculiar warning left by the ancient Egyptians themselves. Among the inscriptions found in the city's ruins, one phrase stood out: "The tomb of the Great One is protected by the wrath of the gods." As the years pass, the lost Golden City continues to give up its secrets, but only when it chooses to. Some of the city's deepest chambers remain closed off, still hidden beneath layers of sand and stone. Even more intriguing are the unconfirmed reports of unexplored tombs beneath the city, said to hold the remains of high-ranking officials or even royal figures. Could these tombs contain treasures so valuable that their discovery could change everything we know about ancient Egypt? Or could they hold the key to understanding why the city was abandoned in the first place? What could these tombs reveal about the mysterious events that led to the city's downfall? As with many ancient mysteries, the answers seem just out of reach, tantalizingly close, yet forever hidden. The curse of the lost Golden City may be more than just a story. It may be a warning, a reminder of the fragile line between the living and the dead, between the known and the unknown. For now, the lost Golden City lies under the watchful gaze of the desert, its secrets waiting to be uncovered. What it will reveal in the coming years remains uncertain, but one thing is clear: this city, buried in time, has much more to say. Will the rest of its mysteries remain buried, or will the sands finally yield their answers? Only time will tell. As we leave behind the dust and whispers of the lost Golden City, we turn our attention to another riddle, equally enigmatic, yet even more elusive. A puzzle that delves into the very foundation of ancient Egyptian civilization, the mystery of the lost golden tongues. A tale of words, written in forgotten languages, and hidden scripts that might hold the keys to understanding an even deeper, lost aspect of Egypt's majestic past. The temples of Luxor, the colossal statues of Ramses II, the gleaming pyramids, all these are what most people envision when they think of ancient Egypt. But there is another side to this civilization, one that is far more obscure. Imagine a world where ancient knowledge, encoded in forgotten languages and spoken only by the few, vanished without a trace. What if the Egyptians had a set of sacred tongues, languages so powerful they were said to be able to bend the will of the gods themselves? The idea of lost languages is not new. Over the centuries, countless cultures have witnessed their written forms fade away, buried by time or deliberately hidden by those who feared their power. But in the case of Egypt, this mystery takes on a darker and more mystical tone, because the lost golden tongues are tied to the very heart of Egypt's religious and spiritual power. In the early 20th century, a series of ancient texts began to surface in Egypt: fragmented scrolls, worn stone tablets, and cryptic inscriptions found in hidden chambers of tombs and temples. These texts contained strange symbols, unidentifiable characters that seemed to resist every effort to decode them. At first glance, they appeared to be another form of ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, but something was different about them. They were not the same as any known script, nor were they written in any of the languages of ancient Egypt that we had come to know. This is where the mystery begins. Many scholars believe these texts could be the remnants of a lost language or dialect, perhaps spoken only by the highest echelons of society, priests, scribes, or even pharaohs themselves. Some suggest that these tongues were used in sacred rituals, a means of communicating with the divine. It's said that the very utterance of these words could alter the course of fate, summon the gods, or unlock hidden powers within the earth itself. Could these be the golden tongues, the language of the gods, long thought to have been reserved for the most secretive rites? But if these tongues were so potent, why have they faded into obscurity? What happened to them? Where did they go? And why were they lost to time? To answer these questions, we must look deeper into Egypt's ancient religious practices. The priests of ancient Egypt were known not only for their wealth and power, but for their esoteric knowledge of the natural world and the divine. It is said that certain rituals were conducted in languages that were too sacred to be understood by common people. These rituals were believed to be the key to unlocking cosmic forces that connected the mortal realm with that of the gods. Could the lost golden tongues have been part of these rites? Some theories suggest that these sacred languages were passed down through generations, hidden away from the public eye, and even encoded within hieroglyphic inscriptions. But as Egypt's dynastic period came to a close, with the rise of foreign invaders, including the Greeks and later the Romans, the ancient Egyptian way of life began to break down. Could these foreign powers have deliberately sought to erase the very core of Egyptian spiritual knowledge? Or was the loss of the golden tongues simply the result of changing times, of a culture evolving, leaving behind practices that were no longer relevant or necessary? As we look at the surviving texts, we are faced with more questions than answers. Some of the fragments found in hidden tombs contain strange and seemingly untranslatable symbols that bear no resemblance to any known script. They are not like hieroglyphs, which we have painstakingly deciphered over the years. Instead, they seem to belong to a different system entirely, one that defies easy categorization. And yet, there is something about these texts that suggests they were part of something far greater. A language that once held the keys to power, to understanding the universe itself. Could these mysterious symbols hold the key to unlocking ancient Egyptian cosmology, perhaps revealing lost knowledge of the stars, the afterlife, or the hidden forces that governed the world? Or, as some fringe theories suggest, could they be connected to something even more extraordinary? A code for tapping into forgotten technologies, ancient methods of healing, or even the manipulation of time and space? In more recent years, some researchers have speculated that the lost golden tongues may be related to what is sometimes called mystery schools, secret societies or priestly orders that preserved and transmitted forbidden knowledge. These schools were rumored to possess powerful secrets, passed down through the ages, guarded by those who understood the true meaning of the ancient scripts. Perhaps the lost golden tongues were part of a spiritual tradition too dangerous to be widely known, a knowledge that, once shared, could have unraveled the very fabric of Egyptian society. One particularly intriguing theory is that the golden tongues were tied to the concept of divine speech, a kind of sacred utterance that could invoke deities or perform miracles. In ancient Egypt, language and power were intimately connected. The very act of speaking was thought to have the power to create, to manifest reality. Could these lost tongues have been seen as a bridge between the human and divine? And if so, what happened to them? As we explore the remnants of ancient Egypt, we begin to realize that the lost golden tongues are not just a forgotten piece of history. They are a puzzle that may still hold the key to understanding the mysteries of ancient Egypt, from its religious practices to its technological achievements. Why, after all, would such a powerful and sacred language simply vanish? What is it that the priests and pharaohs knew, knowledge so potent, so dangerous, that it was buried along with the rest of Egypt's secrets? The sands of time may have covered it, but perhaps not completely. Perhaps there is still more to uncover, hidden in plain sight or locked away in the most remote corners of Egypt's ancient temples. Could the golden tongues ever be deciphered, or will they remain a symbol of Egypt's lost power and wisdom, forever out of reach? The mystery of the lost golden tongues remains one of the most intriguing puzzles of ancient history. But as we continue to search, to uncover fragments of this forgotten language, we are reminded that the more we learn, the more we are left wondering. What else remains hidden, waiting to be spoken, waiting to be understood? As we leave behind the enigmatic whispers of the lost golden tongues, we now turn to a mystery that stretches far beyond the sands of Egypt, deep into the heart of South America. There, in the arid plains of Peru, another riddle awaits, a puzzle that has captivated researchers and explorers for decades. The Nazca mummies, discovered in the desert near the famous Nazca lines, are not just ancient remains. They are the silent, unblinking witnesses to a civilization that continues to defy understanding. The Nazca region, a stretch of dry, barren land, is already famous for its massive geoglyphs, the intricate, mysterious patterns carved into the earth that can only be fully appreciated from the sky. But beneath this same desolate landscape lies an even greater mystery, one that, unlike the geoglyphs, has remained buried for centuries, until only recently. In 2017, a startling discovery was made. Excavations in the area revealed a collection of mummies unlike any others, beings whose appearance and preservation have raised more questions than answers. These mummies, believed to date back to around 2,000 years ago, are not the typical human remains one would expect from the Nazca culture. Their features, elongated skulls, extra fingers, and strange proportions, have made them the subject of intense debate and speculation. While some archaeologists point to these anomalies as evidence of the Nazca people's unique burial practices and ritualistic customs, others are left wondering, could these mummies be something entirely different? Could they represent a culture or species entirely unknown to history? The mummies themselves, once uncovered, seemed to defy what we thought we knew about ancient Peruvian societies. Most striking of all are their elongated skulls, which are far more pronounced than the typical cranial modifications practiced by the Nazca people. These skulls, which show clear signs of artificial deformation, have sparked heated debates. Were they the result of intentional head binding, a common practice among ancient civilizations? Or is there something more to these strange skulls, a clue that points to an entirely different origin for the people buried here? Beyond the elongated heads, the mummies also exhibit other peculiarities. Many of them have 3 or more fingers on each hand, a feature not observed in any known human population. Some of the mummies' bodies are wrapped in complex, multicolored textiles, similar to those used in Nazca funerary practices, while others appear to have been embalmed in ways that suggest a different cultural influence altogether. The preservation of the bodies is extraordinary, their skin and features still remarkably intact despite the passage of over 2 millennia. In fact, some of the mummies seem almost lifelike, their facial expressions frozen in time, as though they could step out of their tombs at any moment. While mainstream explanations suggest these are simply the remains of individuals who practiced extreme forms of body modification, there are other theories, more speculative perhaps, but no less intriguing. Some have suggested that these mummies could be the remains of an entirely different species, one that coexisted with ancient humans, or perhaps visited from beyond. Could these unusual mummies be evidence of an advanced, unknown culture? One that left behind no trace except these bizarre remains? Could they even represent the first evidence of extraterrestrial life on Earth? A theory that has been proposed by a small but vocal faction of fringe researchers? The discovery of these mummies has drawn comparisons to other mysterious finds around the world, whether it be the elongated skulls of ancient cultures in Europe, Africa, and Asia, or the strange artifacts found in the Egyptian pyramids. Could these anomalies be related? Are they evidence of a lost, global civilization with knowledge and customs that have long since faded from our collective memory? Even more perplexing is the question of how the mummies were preserved. Unlike other ancient mummies, which were typically buried in tombs or placed in crypts, these Nazca mummies were found in small tomb-like structures, hastily arranged in the desert sands. Some were discovered in burial chambers that appear to have been intentionally hidden from view, suggesting a deliberate attempt to conceal their existence. Could this point to a history of secrecy surrounding these mummies? Were they buried in this way to protect them from prying eyes? Or is there something about these mummies that has been deliberately kept out of public knowledge, perhaps by the very people who discovered them? Adding another layer of mystery to the story is the involvement of local shamans and spiritual leaders. In the wake of the discovery, some indigenous groups in the region have claimed that these mummies are not just relics of the past, but are in fact sacred beings tied to the spiritual beliefs of the Nazca people. Could there be a deeper connection between these mummies and the ancient rites performed in the region, perhaps a link to the mysterious Nazca lines themselves? Some speculate that the figures and animals etched into the desert floor could be connected to the same spiritual beliefs that governed the lives of the people whose mummies have been uncovered. Did the Nazca create these mummies as part of a broader cosmological framework, one that involved interaction with gods or otherworldly beings? Theories continue to proliferate, but so far there is no clear explanation for the bizarre features of these mummies. Despite the rigorous work of archaeologists and anthropologists, no definitive answers have emerged. Are these mummies simply the product of an ancient culture's customs and rituals, or do they represent something far more extraordinary? What if these beings were not human at all? What if they were something else, something that slipped through the cracks of history, leaving only these strange, perplexing remains to tell their story? As the excavation of the Nazca mummies continues, more questions are raised than answered. The site is still being studied, and with each new find, the story only deepens. Are we looking at the remains of a lost civilization, an unknown culture with its own customs and practices? Or are we witnessing the remains of something even more baffling, something that challenges our understanding of human history itself? The Nazca mummies remain one of the most perplexing mysteries of the ancient world. With their strange features, their extraordinary preservation, and the questions they pose about human history, they invite us to look beyond the surface and consider that perhaps there is much more to the past than we have yet uncovered. What secrets do these mummies still hold, and what might they reveal about the ancient world that we have not yet understood? The answers, it seems, lie buried beneath the sands of Peru, waiting for the right moment to emerge. As we leave behind the perplexing mummies of the Nazca Desert, we now turn our attention to a place where history, once thought to be lost, has risen from the depths of time, a place that, much like the mummies, carries within it secrets that have yet to be fully unraveled. In the arid heart of Syria, beneath the shifting sands of the ancient city of Qatna, a royal tomb was uncovered, one that has left even the most seasoned archaeologists scratching their heads. The royal tomb of Qatna, discovered in 2009, lies hidden in the northwestern region of Syria, near the borders of modern-day Palestine. Qatna, which flourished from the 18th to the 16th centuries BC, was once a major city-state that played a key role in the politics and trade of the ancient Near East. Today, however, the city's ruins are barely a whisper in the winds of time, its once thriving streets and palaces buried beneath layers of earth. What the archaeologists found when they unearthed the tomb was nothing short of extraordinary, an intricate and lavish burial site that appeared to belong to the highest echelons of Qatna's elite. But as with so many ancient discoveries, what they uncovered raised just as many questions as it answered. The tomb itself is not just a burial chamber. It is a glimpse into a civilization that existed thousands of years ago, in an era that was contemporary with the great cities of Mesopotamia and Egypt. Inside, archaeologists found a collection of meticulously crafted objects, jewelry, weapons, and ceremonial items, made from precious metals and stones. Some of these items, such as ornate bronze daggers and finely crafted pottery, were clearly the work of skilled artisans. The sheer opulence of the tomb suggests that its occupant was someone of great importance, perhaps even a ruler or a member of the royal family. What truly sets the tomb apart, however, are the bizarre and unexpected elements that have baffled scholars. Among the objects found were intricately decorated seals and inscriptions in a script that remains largely undeciphered to this day. These strange symbols seem to be a blend of various ancient writing systems, some familiar, like those of the Akkadians and Egyptians, and others entirely foreign. Could this suggest that Qatna was part of a larger, more interconnected world than previously thought? Or is it possible that these inscriptions hold a secret, one that has remained hidden for millennia, waiting for the right minds to unlock its meaning? One of the most striking discoveries inside the tomb was the presence of human remains, bones and skulls, carefully arranged and placed beside the royal artifacts. These skeletal remains, believed to be those of the tomb's occupant, show signs of trauma, possibly from a violent death. The body, which was originally interred with gold and precious items, had been disturbed, perhaps by looters, or even by those who sought to erase the memory of the individual buried there. This brings to light another unsettling possibility. Was the occupant of the tomb a victim of a violent political struggle? Did their death lead to the tomb's eventual abandonment, leaving their memory to be erased by time? While the tomb of Qatna offers many tantalizing clues, it also presents a host of mysteries that have yet to be resolved. The most pressing question remains: who was buried there? The grandeur of the tomb suggests a figure of significant power, yet no clear records of a royal burial in Qatna during this period have ever been discovered. Was this the resting place of a king or queen, a ruler who held sway over the region and its allies? Or was it the tomb of someone far less important, whose status was inflated over time through the burial of royal-like artifacts? And if this person was indeed a ruler, what role did Qatna play in the greater political landscape of the ancient Near East? The mystery deepens when we consider the strange nature of the tomb itself. Unlike the grand burial sites found in ancient Egypt or Mesopotamia, the tomb of Qatna seems to have been hastily constructed, with evidence of multiple phases of construction and alteration. This suggests that the tomb was not initially designed to house such a royal figure, but rather repurposed at some point during the burial process. Could the tomb have been built for someone else, perhaps an important noble, who was later elevated to royal status? Or was it, as some have suggested, part of a secretive burial tradition that intentionally blurred the lines between the living and the dead? Even more perplexing are the unusual artifacts found within the tomb, many of which seem to point to an unspoken connection between Qatna and other ancient cultures. Several of the seals discovered are remarkably similar to those found in ancient Anatolia and the Levant, regions that had significant cultural and trade ties to Qatna. What does this tell us about the city's role in the greater network of ancient kingdoms? Were they merely a trading hub, or did they play a more active role in shaping the events of their time? Despite the meticulous excavation and study of the tomb, no clear answers have yet emerged to these questions. Some have even speculated that the tomb may have belonged to someone who was not even part of Qatna's royal family at all, but rather an outsider whose body was placed in this grand burial site as a symbolic gesture of power or influence. If this is the case, what does this say about Qatna's political and social structure? Could this tomb represent the first clue to understanding the complex and often mysterious relationships between the various kingdoms of the ancient Near East? The royal tomb of Qatna remains, like so many other ancient mysteries, a silent witness to a time long past. Its treasures, its inscriptions, and its skeletal remains offer a tantalizing glimpse into the world of the ancient city, yet they also remind us of how little we truly understand about this civilization. The answers, it seems, are locked away in the sands of Syria, waiting for the right moment, or the right discovery, to bring them to light. As we continue to explore the ancient mysteries of Qatna, we are left with one final question. How much more is still buried beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered? What other secrets does this long-lost city hold? As we leave the tombs of Qatna and their unanswered questions behind, we now find ourselves in a different part of the world, one where ancient mysteries stretch their long shadows across the earth, hidden in the crevices of forgotten landscapes. In the heart of southern Africa, near the small village of Mpaluzi in Swaziland, now Eswatini, an object of fascination has perplexed and intrigued researchers, explorers, and locals alike for decades. This is no ordinary artifact. It is a gigantic footprint carved into the rock, a mark that has stood the test of time and the elements. The giant footprint of Mpaluzi, as it has come to be known, is not just an unusual geological feature. It is something that calls into question everything we think we know about ancient history, human evolution, and the forces that shaped our planet. Measuring over 1.2 meters in length, it is an imprint that seems almost too large to be the mark of any known creature, let alone a human. The footprint sits embedded in a rock face, its outline visible against the smooth surface of the stone. And yet, despite the attention it has drawn from numerous archaeologists, geologists, and anthropologists, no consensus has emerged as to its origins, its meaning, or even its purpose. At first glance, the footprint might appear to be an illusion, an oddly shaped natural depression or an erosion mark shaped by the slow forces of time. But when viewed up close, the impression is far too distinct, too purposeful, to be dismissed so easily. The toes are clearly defined, the arch of the foot is noticeable, and the overall proportions suggest a humanoid shape. It's an undeniable feature, one that challenges the standard narratives of human history. How could such a large, precise footprint have been left in a place so remote, so inaccessible, where no known creatures, or humans, could have left it behind? The local legend surrounding the footprint only adds to its mystique. In Swazi folklore, the footprint is said to belong to an ancient giant, a being whose enormous size was matched only by the strength and power it wielded. The stories describe how these giants once roamed the land, living among humans but possessing the ability to shape the world with their enormous steps. It is said that the footprint was left by one such giant, a being whose existence is now relegated to myth and forgotten history. But could these ancient tales, passed down through generations, have a basis in truth? Is there a connection between the stories of giants and the physical evidence before us? While these local legends offer a compelling narrative, mainstream scientists have proposed more conventional explanations. The most common among these is that the footprint is a natural formation, the result of erosion or other geological processes that have shaped the rock over millions of years. Some geologists argue that the shape and depth of the footprint could be the result of an ancient layer of rock that has been weathered in a way that gives the impression of a large, human-like footprint. But even if erosion can explain the form of the imprint, it still leaves the question of its size unresolved. Could such a large print have truly been formed by natural forces alone? Another hypothesis that has surfaced over the years is that the footprint is the result of ancient human activity. According to some researchers, the mark could have been made by a large human, someone far bigger than the average person today, or perhaps even a member of a previously unknown giant humanoid species that once roamed the earth. This theory draws on the idea that ancient humans were not the small, fragile beings we often imagine, but might have been larger and more robust than we realize. Could this giant footprint be evidence of an ancient race of people who lived in distant ages, long before the civilizations we know today? Some fringe theories push this idea even further, suggesting that the footprint could be evidence of extraterrestrial or even supernatural influences. There are claims that the footprint's size and distinct shape defy the possibilities of natural or human origin. Could it, as some have speculated, be the mark of a visitor from another world, an alien being whose technology or biology left behind an imprint in the rock, one that humans are not yet equipped to fully understand? Though these theories are widely dismissed by mainstream scholars, they continue to spark the imagination of those who believe in the possibility of extraterrestrial life or hidden dimensions. Perhaps the most intriguing theory, however, is that the footprint may be part of an even older, lost history of Earth, one that dates back to an era far before humanity began its journey through time. Could this imprint have been made by a species that predated our own, a civilization whose existence was so advanced and so old that it left behind only the faintest traces of its presence? This would suggest that the footprint is not merely the mark of an individual being, but a relic of a forgotten world, a world that had knowledge and capabilities far beyond what we know today. In this light, the footprint becomes more than just a mystery. It becomes a symbol of a much larger puzzle, one that questions the very nature of human history. Despite the various theories, the footprint of Mpaluzi continues to resist definitive answers. The site has been studied by numerous experts over the years, but its exact age, origin, and meaning remain elusive. Some believe that further research and exploration might eventually uncover more clues, but as it stands, the footprint stands as a reminder of how much we still have to learn about the ancient world. What if this mark is not just a random geological feature or an over-exaggerated myth? What if it is something far more significant, something that challenges the linear timeline of human history we so often take for granted? Could this giant footprint be the remnants of a race of beings who lived alongside early humans, only to be erased by time and the forces of nature? Or perhaps it is a product of ancient rituals and practices, an artifact left behind by a long-forgotten civilization whose legacy was deliberately concealed from the world. We may never know for certain, but the footprint continues to linger, waiting for the right discovery or the right theory to shed light on its purpose. For now, it remains one of the most intriguing and perplexing mysteries of the ancient world. Whether a giant's mark, a misinterpreted natural feature, or something far stranger, the giant footprint of Mpaluzi serves as a quiet reminder of how much we still don't understand about the distant past. The question lingers: what else could be hidden in the cracks of the earth, waiting to be discovered? What other imprints of forgotten giants, whether literal or metaphorical, are waiting to emerge from the sands of time? As we leave behind the mysteries of the giant footprint in Mpaluzi, we journey across the world, far to the east, to a place where ancient wonders defy the understanding of even the most advanced modern minds. There, in the heart of India, stands an awe-inspiring monument carved entirely from rock, a temple whose construction has confounded engineers, historians, and archaeologists alike for centuries. This is the Temple of Kailasa, a monolithic marvel that continues to challenge the very limits of human ingenuity and the ancient knowledge that once graced this land. The Temple of Kailasa, located in the Ellora Caves complex in Maharashtra, India, is a striking sight. Unlike the typical stone structures that rise above the earth, the Kailasa temple was not built up from the ground but carved into the earth. An entire temple, complete with intricate sculptures, pillars, and even a central shrine, all chiseled out of a single massive block of basalt rock. The scale of the feat is almost unimaginable. The temple stretches 30 meters high, 40 meters deep, and 35 meters wide, carved from a solid rock face with no visible seams or joints. Every surface, every column, every intricate design was created by a process of excavation that began from the top of the rock and worked its way down. To this day, the methods used to achieve such precision remain a mystery. This temple is dedicated to the Hindu god Lord Shiva, and it is a testament to the artistic and religious devotion of the Rashtrakuta dynasty, which commissioned its creation sometime in the 8th century AD. The scale and grandeur of the Kailasa temple are remarkable, but it is the how of its construction that truly defies belief. How could ancient craftsmen, working with simple tools and no modern machinery, have managed to carve such a complex and massive structure from a single stone? The accepted explanation is that the temple was built using traditional methods, carving from the top down, chiseling away the stone in a careful, deliberate process that would have taken decades to complete. But even this explanation does not resolve the deeper questions about the precision of the work. The sheer volume of rock that was removed, over 200,000 tons, would have required an extraordinary amount of labor and coordination. And yet, there is no evidence of large-scale quarrying around the site, suggesting that the builders may have started with a single, massive piece of rock. But how could this have been done with such precision, using only rudimentary tools? The complexity of the carvings inside the temple only adds to the enigma. The walls are adorned with exquisite depictions of Hindu mythology, detailed scenes of deities, demons, and celestial beings that seem to tell stories that span the ages. The central shrine features a massive sculpture of Lord Shiva in his cosmic dance, while surrounding the temple are dozens of smaller shrines and sanctuaries, each intricately carved with scenes from ancient epics like the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. The level of detail in these sculptures, coupled with the size and scale of the temple, suggests that the builders were not only skilled artisans, but also had a deep understanding of spiritual and architectural design. But how did they achieve this? Was there some lost technology or knowledge that made such an accomplishment possible? Some have speculated that the builders of Kailasa may have had access to tools or techniques lost to history, or perhaps even knowledge passed down from an earlier, more advanced civilization. Could there have been a forgotten culture that possessed the ability to carve stone with the precision seen at Kailasa, tools or methods lost over time, their secrets buried beneath centuries of dust and decay? Could the builders have had access to a form of sound or vibration technology that allowed them to shape the stone with ease, using sonic frequencies or vibrations to soften or manipulate the rock in ways that would have been impossible with traditional tools? While these ideas remain speculative, they open up fascinating possibilities about the depth of ancient knowledge and technology. Even more intriguing are the theories that suggest the Kailasa temple was not simply a product of human labor, but possibly influenced by divine inspiration or supernatural means. According to some local legends, the temple was built by the mythical demon King Ravana, who is said to have used supernatural powers to carve the temple out of the mountain as an act of devotion to Lord Shiva. In these stories, the temple is not merely a work of art, but a miraculous creation, the result of divine intervention or extraordinary abilities that defy the natural laws of the world. Could there be a kernel of truth to these stories? Or is it simply a cultural narrative that arose to explain the temple's awe-inspiring features? One of the more bizarre theories proposes the idea that the Anjikuni villagers may have been victims of a mass abduction, either by extraterrestrial beings or by forces unknown. UFO sightings and unexplained disappearances have been a topic of fascination for many, and the sudden, inexplicable vanishing of an entire community has led some to draw parallels with other unexplained events. Were the villagers of Anjikuni taken by aliens? Were they part of an experiment or an encounter that defies any logical explanation? While this theory remains on the fringe, it certainly adds an intriguing layer of complexity to the mystery. Despite numerous investigations, no conclusive evidence has ever been found to explain the disappearance of Anjikuni village. The records are sparse, and the details surrounding the event remain shrouded in uncertainty. The villagers, their lives, and their final days remain a puzzle, a mystery that has, for decades, sparked curiosity and speculation but has yet to yield any clear answers. And so, we are left to ponder. What really happened to the people of Anjikuni village? Could they have simply vanished without a trace? Or is there something more to this strange event? Was there an environmental factor, a curse, or even something beyond the natural world at play? The mystery of Anjikuni remains unsolved, inviting us to wonder if, one day, we might uncover the truth behind the vanishing of an entire community in the remote, frozen wilderness of the Canadian Arctic. Perhaps in time, new discoveries or new technologies will provide us with the answers. Until then, the eerie silence of Anjikuni village continues to speak, its mystery waiting to be unlocked by those who are willing to venture into the unknown. What exactly happened in those frigid northern winds, and what might still be hidden beneath the icy expanse of time? As we leave behind the awe-inspiring creation of the Kailasa Temple, we now find ourselves in the remote wilderness of Canada's northern territories, where another baffling and eerie mystery awaits. There, in the vast, icy expanse of the Canadian Arctic, lies the story of the sudden and inexplicable disappearance of an entire village, a mystery that has haunted investigators and the indigenous peoples of the region for nearly a century. This is the story of Anjikuni village, a place that at one point was home to hundreds of people. Yet one fateful day in the 1930s, it was found empty, with no trace of its inhabitants left behind. Anjikuni village was located near the shores of the Anjikuni Lake, in what is today known as the Kivalik region of Nunavut. The area is known for its harsh conditions, frigid winters and long, dark nights. Yet, in the 1930s, this village was a thriving hub of the Inuit community. The village, as reported by early explorers, was not only a place of residence but also a center of trade, culture, and family life. The people lived in harmony with the land, surrounded by the rugged beauty of the Arctic terrain. It was a place where hunters and fishermen would set off each day to gather food, and the village itself was marked by sturdy stone and sod dwellings built to endure the harsh winters. On the surface, the village of Anjikuni appeared to be a typical, albeit remote, community, a far cry from the more bustling settlements further south. But it was in 1930 that things took a strange and unexpected turn. According to reports, a trapper named Joe LaBelle, who had worked in the area for many years, made a routine trip to Anjikuni village. He had visited the settlement numerous times before, and he was familiar with the villagers and their way of life. But when he arrived that day, he found the village eerily deserted. At first, LaBelle thought that the people might have simply moved temporarily, perhaps due to a hunting trip or an urgent matter. But as he ventured deeper into the village, he found no signs of life, no smoke rising from the hearths, no sounds of children playing, and, most hauntingly, no sign of the villagers themselves. The homes were intact, their supplies untouched, and the fish caches remained full, but the villagers were nowhere to be found. This alone would have been strange enough, but what Labelle discovered next was even more unsettling. As he searched the area, he came across several signs of strange occurrences. Food had been left half-prepared. Tools were scattered across the village as though the people had simply vanished in the middle of their work. There were no footprints leading away from the village, no signs of a struggle or an emergency evacuation. In fact, it seemed as though the villagers had simply disappeared into thin air. Labelle's discovery was brought to the attention of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, who conducted their own investigation. The initial reports were filled with confusion, as even the most experienced officers couldn't find any reasonable explanation for the village's disappearance. They found no evidence of a mass migration or a violent event. There were no bodies, no signs of conflict, and no clues that could explain what had happened. The more they searched, the more the mystery deepened. The village's supplies remained in place, suggesting the people had not left of their own accord. In fact, the food caches, staples for the harsh winters, were still abundant, as though the villagers had expected to return. As the investigation continued, the RCMP began to delve into the history of the village, seeking any explanations from the local Inuit population. But even the elders of the surrounding communities could not provide any answers. Some speculated that the village may have been cursed, while others suggested that the people had simply abandoned the settlement in a mass exodus. But none of these theories could account for the absence of any signs that the villagers had even left. No footprints, no trails, no destruction, just an empty village with everything left behind as if it were frozen in time. Over the years, the mystery of Anjikuni village has taken on a life of its own. Some believe that the village's disappearance could have been linked to some sort of environmental factor. Could a sudden and catastrophic event, such as a massive storm, an avalanche, or a sudden shift in the landscape, have caused the villagers to evacuate or be swept away? While some theories have suggested this, the lack of any physical evidence, such as displaced rocks or damaged structures, seems to rule out such natural explanations. Others have speculated that the village's disappearance was tied to a more supernatural explanation. Some stories circulated about the village being the site of an ancient Inuit curse placed upon the land by spirits or gods long ago. The absence of any human trace, some say, could suggest a spiritual or metaphysical intervention, an event beyond the grasp of human understanding. These theories, of course, are more speculative in nature and are difficult to verify, but they persist as part of the folklore surrounding Anjikuni's disappearance. One of the more bizarre theories proposes the idea that the Anjikuni villagers may have been victims of a mass abduction, either by extraterrestrial beings or by forces unknown. UFO sightings and unexplained disappearances have been a topic of fascination for many, and the sudden, inexplicable vanishing of an entire community has led some to draw parallels with other unexplained events. Were the villagers of Anjikuni taken by aliens? Were they part of an experiment or an encounter that defies any logical explanation? While this theory remains on the fringe, it certainly adds an intriguing layer of complexity to the mystery. Despite numerous investigations, no conclusive evidence has ever been found to explain the disappearance of Anjikuni village. The records are sparse, and the details surrounding the event remain shrouded in uncertainty. The villagers, their lives, and their final days remain a puzzle, a mystery that has, for decades, sparked curiosity and speculation, but has yet to yield any clear answers. And so, we are left to ponder. What really happened to the people of Anjikuni village? Could they have simply vanished without a trace? Or is there something more to this strange event? Was there an environmental factor, a curse, or even something beyond the natural world at play? The mystery of Anjikuni remains unsolved, inviting us to wonder if, one day, we might uncover the truth behind the vanishing of an entire community in the remote, frozen wilderness of the Canadian Arctic. Perhaps, in time, New discoveries or new technologies will provide us with the answers. Until then, the eerie silence of Anjikuni village continues to speak, its mystery waiting to be unlocked by those who are willing to venture into the unknown. What exactly happened in those frigid northern winds, and what might still be hidden beneath the icy expanse of time? As we leave the haunting emptiness of Anjikuni village behind, we now journey to a different part of the world, one where mountains conceal a mystery that has baffled historians, archaeologists, and skeptics alike for nearly 2 decades. Nestled in the heart of Bosnia, amidst the quiet hills and thick forests of the Visoko Valley, there lies a complex of ancient structures that has captivated the world's imagination. Known as the Pyramids of Bosnia, or more formally the Bosnian Pyramids, these towering formations have sparked a debate as intense as it is mysterious. Are they the result of natural geological processes, or could they be the remnants of an ancient, forgotten civilization that predates anything we have previously known? The Pyramids of Bosnia were first brought to international attention in 2005 by Semir Osmanagic, a Bosnian-American archaeologist who made a bold claim. These hills, which had long been considered natural, were in fact man-made pyramids, ancient structures, designed and constructed with remarkable precision, that had lain hidden beneath the earth for millennia. Osmanagic's assertion was met with skepticism and resistance from the scientific community, as no definitive evidence of human involvement had been found. And yet, despite this, the story of the Bosnian pyramids continues to fascinate and perplex. The most prominent of these hills is the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, a massive formation that rises sharply from the valley floor, reaching nearly 220 meters in height, about 30 meters taller than the Great Pyramid of Giza. Its shape, a near-perfect pyramid with 4 faces that line up with the cardinal directions, immediately caught Osmanagic's attention. As he began to excavate, he claimed to have uncovered geometric patterns, stone blocks, and other features beneath the surface, all of which he argued were indicative of human construction. But were these really signs of an ancient pyramid, or simply the result of erosion and natural processes? In the years that followed Osmanagic's initial discoveries, more structures were uncovered. Workers excavating the area found what appeared to be paved stone paths, large blocks of cut stone, and even remnants of what seemed to be ancient artifacts. The evidence seemed to support Osmanagic's hypothesis, but the scientific community remained unconvinced. Mainstream archaeologists argued that the formations were nothing more than natural geological features, erosion patterns, ancient riverbeds and rock formations shaped over time by the forces of nature. The idea that these hills were the remnants of an ancient civilization seemed too far-fetched, too radical, and too difficult to prove. However, the mystery surrounding the Bosnian pyramids only grew deeper as more discoveries were made. Researchers and volunteers from around the world, drawn by the allure of the pyramid site, began to assist in excavations, and more evidence seemed to surface, though it was often controversial. Some claimed to have discovered a network of tunnels beneath the pyramids, suggesting a hidden underground complex. Others reported the presence of what appeared to be energy fields or unusual electromagnetic activity in the vicinity of the pyramids, leading some to speculate that these structures might not only have been designed for ceremonial or spiritual purposes, but perhaps even as energy sources or transmission devices. One of the most intriguing aspects of the Bosnian pyramids is the presence of what Osmanagic and his supporters describe as energy beams. According to their claims, the pyramids radiate energy in the form of electromagnetic waves, which can be detected with specialized equipment. Some believe that these energy readings could indicate that the pyramids were intentionally constructed to focus and amplify certain types of energy, perhaps even harnessing the Earth's natural frequencies in ways that modern science can't fully comprehend. Could the builders of these pyramids have understood energy in a way that we have yet to rediscover? Could these ancient structures have been designed not only as monuments but also as instruments with a deeper, hidden purpose? Adding to the intrigue are the numerous artifacts and samples that have been taken from the site. Among the materials that have been examined are concrete-like blocks, which, according to some researchers, are far more advanced than anything that would have been available to ancient civilizations. Could the builders of the Bosnian pyramids have had access to a more sophisticated form of construction material far ahead of their time? These so-called mystery blocks are composed of a substance that has been described as unlike any known natural material. They appear to have been deliberately mixed and poured, almost like modern concrete, but their exact composition remains a mystery. Some speculate that they could be evidence of a lost civilization that possessed technology and knowledge far beyond the scope of what we know about the ancient world. But despite all these claims, there are many questions that remain unanswered. Why? If these structures are indeed pyramids, have they not been documented in any historical records or ancient texts? Why have no similar pyramids been found elsewhere in the region or in Bosnia's extensive archaeological record? The absence of any known records or mention of these pyramids in ancient texts remains one of the most significant hurdles to accepting the Bosnian pyramid theory. Some suggest that the pyramids, if they are truly ancient, may have been intentionally hidden or erased from history, perhaps deliberately concealed by the civilization that built them, or forgotten by the inhabitants of the region over time. One possible explanation is that the pyramids, if they were indeed constructed, were abandoned or covered up long before the arrival of modern civilizations in the region. It is conceivable that an ancient, advanced society, one that predated any known cultures in the Balkans, could have built these pyramids and then disappeared without a trace, leaving behind only the remnants of their work to perplex future generations. Could the builders of the Bosnian pyramids have been part of an ancient civilization that vanished without a record? Or were these pyramids constructed by a people who left no lasting legacy, their knowledge and culture lost to time? Some have also suggested that the pyramids could be much older than initially thought. Could these structures have been built by an even more ancient civilization, one that existed long before the rise of the first known civilizations in Mesopotamia, Egypt, or the Indus Valley? Could the Bosnian pyramids be remnants of a time when the earth was still young, and the forces of nature shaped the land in ways that modern humans can't yet comprehend? As the excavation of the Bosnian pyramids continues, the questions only grow more profound. The evidence is incomplete, and the theories are varied, ranging from the plausible to the fantastical. Yet, the mystery of the pyramids remains an enduring one, challenging our understanding of ancient history and the civilizations that preceded us. Could these hills truly be pyramids, remnants of an ancient culture lost to time? Or are they simply the product of natural geological forces, formations that, despite their striking appearance, have no connection to human construction? As with so many other ancient mysteries, the answer may lie somewhere between what we know and what we have yet to discover. The Bosnian pyramids may be waiting to reveal their secrets, but for now, they remain silent, standing as enigmatic monuments to a past that has yet to be fully understood. What lies beneath the earth of the Visoko Valley, and what truths might still be hidden within the stones? As we leave behind the enigma of the Bosnian pyramids, we shift our gaze to the shores of the English Channel, where the winds of history have whispered a chilling mystery, one that continues to perplex historians, archaeologists, and those with an eye for the strange. In the coastal region of Dorset, England, a discovery was made that raised questions about a period of history often thought to be well understood: the Viking Age. Yet, what was unearthed was not just the remnants of Viking warriors, but a collection of graves that defied all expectations. These were the Headless Vikings of Dorset. In the heart of this region, near the village of Weymouth, Archaeologists were conducting a routine excavation in the early 2000s when they stumbled upon an extraordinary find, a burial site containing the remains of over 50 individuals, each with one unsettling feature in common. These were not ordinary Viking burials. They were headless. The graves were part of a large ancient cemetery, hidden beneath the earth for over 1,000 years. Most of the bodies were male, and many were clearly of Viking origin, based on the artifacts found alongside them: battle axes, spears, and shields that marked the warrior's final resting place. Yet what made these graves so unusual was not just the Viking weapons or the age of the site, but the fact that each of the bodies had been decapitated before being buried. The discovery was both fascinating and disturbing. The bodies had been buried in a manner consistent with Viking traditions, placed in shallow graves with their possessions and weapons, but without their heads. The remains were carefully arranged, their limbs positioned in a way that suggested a level of ritualistic practice. The absence of heads was not an accident or an anomaly. It appeared to be a deliberate act, one that carried significant cultural or symbolic meaning. But what did it signify? The practice of decapitation in Viking society is not entirely unknown. In some cases, it was associated with the execution of criminals or prisoners of war. However, these were typically isolated incidents, carried out for punishment or as a symbol of power. But here, in Dorset, the decapitation was not a singular event. It was repeated, with multiple individuals, each one, it seemed, treated in the same ritualistic manner. Some historians have suggested that these headless Vikings may have been the victims of a raid or a battle, executed as part of a larger conflict. The Vikings themselves were notorious for their raids across Europe, and the presence of their weaponry in the graves suggests that these individuals were not buried in peace, but rather as warriors in the midst of conflict. Could this be a case of enemy combatants being executed and left to rot without their heads, a grim reminder of their defeat? Yet even this explanation leaves many questions unanswered. Why were these particular individuals decapitated, and why was the act carried out in such a deliberate, ritualistic way? The absence of heads suggests a level of symbolism, a cultural or religious belief that extended beyond simple punishment or retribution. Could it have been that these individuals were considered unworthy of a proper burial, and that decapitation was a way to dishonor them? Or, as some suggest, could it have been a ritual reserved for those who were seen as other, perhaps individuals who had been captured in battle and were subjected to a fate meant to strip them of their humanity? The mystery deepens when we consider the location of the graves. Dorset was not a Viking stronghold in the traditional sense. The Vikings had established settlements in other parts of Britain, such as York, and had made their mark in eastern and northern England. Yet these headless bodies were found far to the south, in a region that was not known for its Viking activity. Was this simply an isolated burial site, or was it part of a larger, more complex history of Viking expansion and influence in areas not traditionally associated with their raids? Could the burial site in Dorset represent a Viking outpost or a stronghold, one that was not well documented in the historical record? Another theory that has emerged in the wake of the discovery is that these individuals may not have been victims of Viking brutality at all, but rather participants in a much older tradition, one that was adapted by the Vikings for their own purposes. Some experts have pointed to the ancient practice of ritual decapitation, which was practiced in various cultures throughout Europe long before the Vikings arrived. In some cases, the severing of a head was seen as a means of ensuring that the spirit of the deceased could not return to haunt the living. This belief was shared by several pre-Viking cultures in Northern Europe, and it is possible that the Vikings, who had a deep respect for tradition and ritual, adopted this practice as part of their own burial customs. Could these headless Vikings have been part of a larger cultural shift, one that combined older traditions with newer practices, blending the ancient and the contemporary into a unique form of ritual? The location of the graves also suggests that these individuals were not merely victims of a random act of violence, but part of something larger. The presence of weaponry and the deliberate burial of the bodies indicate that these were not mere peasants or ordinary villagers, but warriors, individuals who had been marked by their combat skills and were likely of high status within Viking society. Could the decapitation have been a form of ritualized punishment for these warriors? Were they sacrificed to appease the gods or to fulfill some other spiritual purpose? Was this practice linked to the Vikings' beliefs in the afterlife and the role of the warrior in securing their place in Valhalla? Despite years of research and excavation, the true reason behind the decapitation of these Vikings remains a mystery. No definitive answer has emerged, and the explanations offered by archaeologists and historians are varied and speculative. Some believe that the headless bodies may be the result of a Viking ritual that combined elements of punishment, honor, and sacrifice, while others suggest that they were victims of a more sinister form of warfare or retribution. Still, others speculate that the headless burials may represent an older, pre-Viking practice that was incorporated into Viking culture over time. As we reflect on the mystery of the headless Vikings of Dorset, we are left with more questions than answers. The discovery of these graves challenges our understanding of Viking burial practices, forcing us to reconsider the complexities of their culture and beliefs. What did the decapitation of these individuals truly signify? Was it a ritual act, a punishment, or something else entirely? And what can we learn about the Vikings from this unsettling and enigmatic discovery? The headless Vikings of Dorset remain silent, their story buried beneath centuries of earth. Yet their presence is a reminder that history is not always as straightforward as we might like to believe. There are still mysteries waiting to be uncovered, and hidden stories waiting to be told. What secrets, we wonder, remain buried in the ancient earth of Dorset, waiting for the right questions to bring them to light? As we move from the mystery of the headless Vikings in Dorset, we now turn our attention to the shores of ancient Greece, where another long-forgotten city lies waiting to be uncovered. But unlike the heads of fallen warriors or the mysterious construction of pyramids, this lost city's disappearance was not the result of man-made violence or natural forces alone. No, this city was swallowed by the sea. It is a place known as Helike, and for centuries its name has lingered like a ghost, mentioned in ancient texts but absent from the landscape, lost beneath the waves and buried in the sands of time. Helike, once a prosperous Greek city-state, was located along the northern shores of the Peloponnese, on the banks of the Gulf of Corinth. In its prime, it was a place of wealth, culture, and influence. The city was famed for its sanctuary of Poseidon, the god of the sea, and it held a prominent place in the ancient world, often mentioned by historians such as Pausanias, who marveled at its importance. Helike was not only a religious center, but also a vibrant city, bustling with trade and commerce, and was said to have been home to a thriving community that boasted impressive architecture, grand temples, and perhaps a population of up to 10,000 people. And then, one fateful night, in 373 BC, Helike disappeared. In the span of just a few hours, the city was lost to a series of catastrophic events that have puzzled historians for centuries. A massive earthquake struck the region, followed by a violent tidal wave that flooded the city and swallowed it whole. The ground on which Helike stood, once firm and solid, was said to have cracked open, sinking the city into the sea. It was as if the earth had opened up and consumed it, leaving behind no trace but the ruins of a once thriving civilization and the echo of its name. Ancient sources speak of the devastation with chilling detail. The earthquake was reportedly so powerful that it shook buildings to their foundations and sent the very landscape of the Gulf of Corinth into upheaval. According to Pliny the Elder, the great Roman naturalist, the city of Helike was submerged by the waters in a single night, with most of its inhabitants perishing in the disaster. The ancient historian Strabo also described the event, noting that the city had vanished so completely that even those who went to search for it could find no trace of its existence. In the centuries that followed, Helike became a legend, a story passed down from one generation to the next. The very idea that an entire city could vanish without a trace seemed too fantastical to believe. But while the city was lost to history, its memory lingered. The story of its destruction became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the destructive power of nature, and a reflection of humanity's own fragility in the face of the unknown. But what really happened to Helike? Was it simply a victim of natural forces, an earthquake and a tidal wave, as ancient texts suggest? Or is there more to the story than meets the eye? For centuries, Helike remained lost, its ruins buried beneath the waters of the Gulf of Corinth. But in the 19th and 20th centuries, a series of archaeological expeditions set out to uncover its secrets. And in the early 2000s, a team of Greek archaeologists, led by Dr. Georgos Kourouniotis, made a breakthrough. They uncovered evidence of a large settlement on the seabed near the modern village of Helike, beneath the waters where the city had once stood. What they found was nothing short of extraordinary. The remains of ancient buildings, streets, and pottery, all preserved beneath the sea. The discovery was a watershed moment, as it confirmed that Helike had indeed existed, and that it had once been a thriving city. But what could account for the sudden and complete disappearance of such an advanced civilization? While the earthquake and tsunami are still considered the primary cause of the city's destruction, there are other theories that suggest more mysterious forces at work. One of the most intriguing hypotheses involves the idea that Helike's destruction was not merely the result of a natural disaster, but perhaps a deeper, more cataclysmic event. An event that may have been triggered by human activity or some unknown geophysical force. Could the collapse of the city have been linked to some sort of environmental change, such as a shift in tectonic plates or volcanic activity? The region around the Gulf of Corinth is known for its seismic activity, and some researchers have suggested that the city's sinking could have been caused by an ancient fault line, one that may have been triggered by the violent shaking of the earthquake. This would have caused the ground beneath the city to subside, dragging Helike and its people into the depths of the sea. However, even more speculative theories have emerged over the years. Some suggest that Helike's destruction could have been the result of a massive tsunami, one that was far more powerful than what we typically associate with modern natural disasters. In this theory, the earthquake caused a huge underwater eruption or shift, creating a giant wave that struck the city with an unimaginable force, inundating it in seconds. Such a theory raises the possibility that the city was not just lost to the sea, but was obliterated by a natural event so violent that no traces of it could be found in the aftermath. Could this truly have been the fate of Helike, or is there another explanation hidden beneath the waves? Others have proposed a more unusual explanation, that Helike may have been struck by a celestial event, such as a meteorite impact, that caused widespread destruction. While this is a fringe theory, it does add an element of intrigue to the mystery. What if the city's sudden disappearance was not just the result of a typical earthquake or tsunami, but something far more rare and catastrophic, a cosmic event that struck without warning and changed the course of history? Despite these theories, the mystery of Helike remains unsolved. The remains of the city, now lying submerged beneath the sea, offer few answers to the questions surrounding its destruction. The artifacts recovered from the site, pottery, tools, and sculptures, shed light on the daily lives of its people, but they do little to explain why the city was lost in such an extraordinary way. Was it simply the result of a natural disaster, or was there more at play? an event so unusual that it defies our understanding of history? As the ruins of Helike rest silently beneath the waters, the question remains: what truly happened to this once thriving city? Was it the victim of a powerful earthquake? Or could there have been something more mysterious and catastrophic at work? The ancient texts speak of a city swallowed by the sea, but in the depths of the Gulf of Corinth, the final chapter of Helike's story remains unwritten, waiting for the right moment or the right discovery to reveal its secrets. In the end, Helike's mystery serves as a reminder that history is often as fluid and elusive as the waters that once consumed it. And as we peer into the depths of the sea, we are left to wonder, what else might still be buried beneath the waves, waiting to be uncovered? And what other lost cities, like Helike, remain hidden in the sands of time, their stories still waiting to be told? As we leave behind the lost city of Helike, swallowed by the sea and lost to time, we now find ourselves transported to the banks of the Nile, beneath the blazing Egyptian sun, where a mystery of death, power, and a young king's fate continues to haunt the corridors of history. It is the story of the boy king Tutankhamun, pharaoh of ancient Egypt, whose life was cut short, and whose death has stirred fascination, suspicion, and controversy for nearly 3,000 years. Tutankhamun, or King Tut as he has come to be known, ascended the throne at the tender age of 9 or 10, following the death of his father, Akhenaten, the controversial pharaoh who attempted to change Egypt's traditional polytheistic religion to worship a single god, Aten. Tut's reign was brief, lasting only a decade, yet his legacy would become one of the most iconic in the history of Egypt, not because of his achievements, but because of the circumstances surrounding his death, the discovery of his tomb, and the unanswered questions that continue to loom over the young king's mysterious demise. It was in 1922, when British archaeologist Howard Carter made one of the greatest archaeological discoveries of the 20th century, that Tutankhamun's name returned to the world stage. In the Valley of the Kings, deep within the heart of Egypt's ancient burial grounds, Carter uncovered the nearly intact tomb of the boy king. The tomb, designated Kehi 562, was filled with treasures beyond imagination: golden masks, intricate jewelry, chariots, weapons, and statues, an unparalleled display of Egypt's grandeur. But amid these wonders lay a riddle that would not be solved for nearly a century. How did a young pharaoh whose reign was short and largely uneventful meet his untimely death? Tutankhamun died around 1323 BC at the age of 18 or 19. The cause of his death, however, has remained shrouded in mystery. Ancient sources are sparse on the subject, and no definitive account exists that sheds light on the events leading up to his death. Some have suggested he succumbed to natural causes, such as an infection, while others have speculated that his death was the result of a violent accident, a betrayal, or even a curse. The most widely accepted explanation for King Tut's death has been that he suffered from a severe infection caused by an injury to his leg. In 1968, after a series of X-rays were taken of Tut's mummified body, doctors discovered that he had a broken leg. The fracture, they believed, could have become infected, leading to complications that ultimately took his life. This theory suggested that Tut's untimely death was simply the result of a tragic accident, an injury sustained while hunting, riding chariots, or engaging in some other activity, followed by an infection that was beyond the medical capabilities of the time. Yet, despite this seemingly straightforward explanation, there are a number of anomalies that cast doubt on the theory of a simple accident. For one, the young king's body showed no signs of trauma consistent with a fatal accident. Although his leg was broken, there were no indications of other injuries, and the fracture itself appeared to be healing when he died. Furthermore, the mummification process itself raised questions. Tut's heart and chest had been removed, as was customary in ancient Egyptian embalming practices. but there were no visible marks or signs of an attempt to treat an infection in the wound. The question remained, could the infection have been the sole cause of death, or was something more complex at play? Another significant clue in the mystery of Tutankhamun's death came in the form of a hasty burial. Unlike most pharaohs who were buried with great ceremony and extensive preparation, Tut's tomb was small and seemed almost incomplete in comparison to others in the Valley of the Kings. The tomb was not as grand. The walls were unadorned, and the burial chamber was relatively plain. Some historians have speculated that this hurriedness could point to something more sinister. Perhaps Tutankhamun's death had been sudden and unexpected, and those around him were forced to act quickly in order to prepare a tomb before the political situation in Egypt could worsen. While the idea of an accidental death continues to be the most widely accepted explanation, other theories persist, some of them far more speculative and provocative. One theory suggests that Tutankhamun was the victim of foul play. Some researchers have pointed to the fact that he was very young when he became pharaoh and was likely manipulated by advisors or even those closest to him. Could someone in his inner circle have orchestrated his death in order to take power for themselves? The lack of clear heirs to the throne and the troubled political landscape of the time might have created a volatile environment where power struggles could lead to desperate actions. Another intriguing theory involves the possibility that Tutankhamun's death was the result of a curse. The idea of a mummy's curse is perhaps one of the most enduring and sensational aspects of Egyptian history, fueled by the dramatic deaths of several individuals associated with the discovery of his tomb, including Lord Carnarvon, the British aristocrat who funded Carter's excavation. Carnarvon died shortly after the tomb was opened, leading to widespread rumors that those who disturbed the tomb would face the wrath of the gods. Could Tutankhamun's death have been part of this curse? Or were these deaths merely coincidental? The very notion of a curse seems improbable, but it cannot be entirely dismissed in light of the strange deaths that followed the tomb's discovery. Other theories suggest that Tutankhamun's death may have been caused by a genetic disorder. It is well documented that Tut was born into a family with significant inbreeding. His father, Akhenaten, and mother, who may have been his sister, were both part of the same royal family. Some researchers believe that Tut's premature death may have been the result of genetic defects, which would have left him physically weakened and vulnerable to disease or injury. In fact, studies of Tut's remains have revealed signs of several health problems, including a clubfoot, scoliosis, and possibly malaria. It is possible that these genetic issues contributed to his early demise, though it remains unclear whether they were directly responsible for his death. But amidst all of these theories, the true cause of Tutankhamun's death remains uncertain. Was it an accident, a political assassination, or a fatal genetic flaw? Or, as some might argue, was it a series of unfortunate events that led to the untimely passing of a young ruler, whose life and reign were overshadowed by the mystery of his death? As we look at the figure of King Tut, preserved in his golden mask, surrounded by treasures beyond imagination, we are left to wonder, what secrets did this young king take to the grave with him? Was his death truly the result of a simple accident, or was there a deeper conspiracy, hidden forces, or even a curse that played a part in his early demise? The story of King Tutankhamun, his rise to power, and his untimely death continues to be one of the most captivating and mysterious chapters in ancient history, leaving us to ponder what lies beneath the surface of this iconic figure, and whether we will ever uncover the truth behind his death. As we leave behind the enigma of King Tutankhamun's death, we turn our attention to another mystery that has captivated the imagination of many for decades, one that revolves around an object of unparalleled beauty and historical significance. It is the story of the Amber Room, a magnificent chamber crafted from panels of amber, gold, and mirrors, often referred to as the eighth wonder of the world. The Amber Room was a masterpiece of craftsmanship, and yet it has vanished without a trace. its disappearance one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the 20th century. The Amber Room was originally constructed in the early 18th century in Russia, a gift from the King of Prussia, Frederick I, to Tsar Peter the Great of Russia. Designed by the German craftsmen Andreas Schluter and Bartolomeo Rastrelli, the room was created to showcase the beauty of amber, a rare and prized material. The panels, which covered the walls, ceilings, and furniture of the room, were intricately carved and inlaid with gold leaf, creating a shimmering effect that bathed the room in a warm, golden glow. The Amber Room was installed in the Catherine Palace of Tsarskoye Selo, near St. Petersburg, where it became one of the most visited and admired works of art in the Russian Empire. For nearly 200 years, the Amber Room stood as a symbol of Russian wealth, culture, and artistry. Visitors from around the world marveled at its beauty, and it became a symbol of the grandeur of the Russian imperial court. But during World War II, the room's fate took a dark turn. In 1941, as Nazi Germany invaded the Soviet Union, the Amber Room was taken by the German forces, who had long coveted the precious panels of amber and gold. In October of that year, as the German army approached St. Petersburg, they seized the Catherine Palace and began dismantling the Amber Room. The panels were carefully removed, packed up, and transported to Königsberg, now Kaliningrad, Russia, where they were displayed as a trophy of war. For a time, it seemed that the Amber Room had been lost to history, its beauty and cultural significance reduced to a mere artifact of conquest. But the real mystery begins with what happened next. Despite the fact that the Amber Room was displayed in Königsberg, it vanished from public view during the chaos of the final days of World War II. As the Allies closed in on Germany, the German authorities hastily packed the panels into crates and attempted to hide them in various locations. Some accounts suggest that the Amber Room was moved to a secret bunker or a nearby mine, but no definitive evidence has ever been found to confirm its whereabouts. By the end of the war, when the area was occupied by the Soviet Union, the Amber Room had completely disappeared, and despite decades of investigation, it has never been recovered. The disappearance of the Amber Room has led to numerous theories, some grounded in historical fact, others in the realm of speculation. One of the most plausible explanations is that the panels were simply lost in the chaos of the war's final days. As the Germans retreated, it is believed that the crates containing the Amber Room were moved to various locations in an effort to keep them hidden from the advancing Soviet forces. The turmoil of the war and the collapse of the Nazi regime created a perfect storm for the disappearance of such a valuable object. Could the Amber Room have been destroyed during the war, lost in the confusion and devastation of the German surrender? Some believe that the panels were burned, melted down for their gold and amber, or destroyed to prevent them from falling into Soviet hands. Others, however, suggest that the Amber Room's disappearance may have been part of a more deliberate cover-up. Could it have been hidden away, deliberately concealed to keep it out of the hands of both the Soviets and the Allies? Some theorists propose that the Amber Room was moved to secret locations in Germany, or even elsewhere in Europe, where it remains hidden to this day. The idea that such a valuable and culturally significant artifact could be stashed away in a private collection or kept in a hidden bunker is not entirely far-fetched. The allure of the Amber Room, its beauty, and its historical importance would make it a prime candidate for collectors or even governments wishing to keep such a treasure for themselves. Another theory that has gained some traction involves the notion that the Amber Room may have been destroyed, but not by the Germans themselves. Some suggest that, during the post-war period, as the Soviet Union sought to establish control over the newly acquired territories, it is possible that the Amber Room was hidden away by Soviet officials, perhaps even purposefully lost to prevent further embarrassment. If the Soviets had been unable to recover it after the war, Might they have chosen to conceal the failure rather than admit to losing such a priceless cultural treasure? And then, there are those who believe that the Amber Room may still be in existence, hidden somewhere, waiting to be rediscovered. This theory is fueled by the fact that no one has ever definitively proven the room's destruction or disappearance. Could it be that, in the years since the war, the panels of amber have been carefully hidden by private collectors, or even by someone with a deep knowledge of the room's significance? Some even suggest that the Amber Room might be stored in a private vault, possibly in a European country, where it remains unseen by the public eye. Despite countless efforts to locate it, no credible leads have ever surfaced, and the mystery only deepens with time. In the decades since its disappearance, there have been numerous attempts to recreate the Amber Room. In 1979, a team of Russian craftsmen began working on a painstaking replica of the original, using the same materials and techniques that were employed centuries ago. The reconstruction of the Amber Room was completed in 2003, and today, visitors to the Catherine Palace can admire the stunning replica, an homage to the original masterpiece. But despite the beauty of the recreation, it is impossible to replace the true Amber Room, which continues to haunt the minds of historians, archaeologists, and treasure hunters alike. With the passage of time, the Amber Room has taken on a mythical quality, a symbol of both cultural loss and the enduring allure of hidden treasure. Its disappearance has become one of the great unsolved mysteries of the 20th century, and yet it remains a tantalizing enigma. What happened to the Amber Room? Was it lost in the chaos of war, or was it deliberately hidden away by those who understood its value? Could it still exist, hidden in plain sight, waiting to be uncovered? The search for the Amber Room continues, though the chances of its recovery grow slimmer with each passing year. And yet, the mystery endures, like a riddle left unsolved, with more questions than answers. Where is the Amber Room? And what, if anything, remains hidden within the shadows of history, waiting for the right moment to be found again? As we leave behind the lingering mystery of the Amber Room, we venture deeper into the vast, unexplored reaches of the world, to a place where nature itself holds its secrets tight. Hidden beneath the dense canopy of the Amazon rainforest lies an enigma that has intrigued explorers, archaeologists, and historians for centuries. It is the story of the lost city of the Amazon, a city that has been described in ancient accounts, yet never definitively found. But what if this lost city was not just one city, but a series of kingdoms, forgotten civilizations that once thrived deep within the Amazon's heart, their remnants waiting to be uncovered? The Amazon rainforest, often referred to as the lungs of the earth, is a place of extraordinary biodiversity and natural wonder. Spanning across 9 countries in South America, the forest covers an area roughly the size of the United States. It is a place of awe-inspiring beauty, but also one of terrifying isolation. The canopy, thick with trees, vines, and foliage, creates a natural fortress, hiding everything beneath it from view. This isolation, combined with centuries of human history, has given rise to countless myths and mysteries about what might lie hidden within its depths. One of the most tantalizing of these mysteries involves the lost city of the Amazon, a city so spectacular, so advanced, that it defies our understanding of what was possible for the civilizations of ancient South America. The earliest references to this city can be found in the accounts of the first European explorers, who ventured into the Amazon in the 16th century. These explorers spoke of cities of gold, vast civilizations teeming with advanced knowledge, and monumental structures buried deep within the forest. But as time passed, the quest to find these cities grew more elusive, and the very idea of a thriving Amazonian civilization was cast aside by mainstream history. For many years, it was believed that the Amazon rainforest was too harsh and too isolated to support large, complex civilizations. The dense jungle and the lack of visible evidence led many to assume that the indigenous peoples of the region lived in small, scattered villages, relying on hunting and gathering. The idea of sophisticated urban centers was considered far-fetched, a mere myth that persisted only in the stories of explorers. But in recent decades, new discoveries and advanced technology have begun to challenge this conventional wisdom. In the 21st century, archaeologists and scientists have uncovered evidence that suggests the Amazon may have been home to far more advanced civilizations than we ever imagined. Using LiDAR technology, laser imaging detection, and ranging, researchers have scanned the forest floor from above, and what they've found is astounding. Beneath the thick layers of foliage, they have detected traces of massive ancient cities, with intricate road networks, large earthen mounds, and extensive agricultural systems that would have supported entire urban populations. These findings have sparked a new wave of interest in the idea that the Amazon was once home to a hidden network of kingdoms, vast civilizations that flourished long before the arrival of Europeans. One of the most striking discoveries came in 2018, when a team of archaeologists uncovered evidence of a complex system of pre-Columbian cities in the central Amazon. Using LiDAR, they were able to map out the remains of large, sophisticated urban centers, cities that had been completely swallowed by the jungle, their existence forgotten for centuries. Among the most remarkable of these discoveries is the finding of an extensive network of roads, causeways, and canals, suggesting that the people who once lived in the Amazon were capable of creating highly organized and interconnected societies. The scale of these roads and waterways, which stretched for miles across the jungle, suggests that these civilizations were not isolated, but part of a vast trade network that spanned the region. The presence of massive earthworks, including large platforms and monumental structures, further supports the idea that these civilizations were not simple tribes, but rather complex societies capable of monumental feats of engineering. One of the most famous theories about the lost city of the Amazon centers on the idea of the City of Z, a legendary city that has captivated explorers since the early 20th century. This myth was popularized by British explorer Percy Harrison Fawcett, who claimed to have found evidence of a lost civilization deep within the Amazon in the 1920s. Fawcett's theories were based on his own expeditions into the jungle, during which he reported finding traces of ancient structures and artifacts. His descriptions of a vast golden city hidden within the forest became the stuff of legend, and in 1925, Fawcett famously disappeared while searching for this city, adding an element of intrigue and tragedy to the story. Over the years, Fawcett's theories have been both embraced and dismissed. Some believe he was on the verge of discovering something truly extraordinary, perhaps an ancient kingdom of unimaginable wealth. Others suggest that his obsession with the lost city of Z led him to misinterpret the evidence he found in the jungle, and that his disappearance was the result of a dangerous, ill-fated expedition. Despite this, the search for the lost city of the Amazon, whether it is the mythical city of Z or another forgotten kingdom, has continued. What makes the mystery of these lost kingdoms so compelling is not just the idea of a hidden city, but the possibility that these civilizations were far more advanced than we previously thought. Could it be that the Amazon, once considered an impenetrable wilderness, was home to a thriving urban culture? Could the people who lived there have developed complex social structures, advanced technology, and sustainable agricultural practices, all while living in harmony with the forest around them? These are questions that researchers are only beginning to explore. One of the more speculative theories is that the civilizations of the Amazon were part of an even older, forgotten global network, connected to other ancient cultures across the world. Some suggest that these civilizations may have had contact with the Olmecs, the Maya, or even ancient cultures in the Near East or the Mediterranean. While there is no concrete evidence to support such claims, the idea that these Amazonian kingdoms were part of a wider cultural exchange is intriguing. Could there have been a shared knowledge that connected these ancient civilizations in ways that we have yet to understand? Despite the incredible advancements in technology that have allowed researchers to peer beneath the jungle's canopy, much of the lost city of the Amazon remains hidden. Archaeologists are still uncovering new sites, but the majority of the cities and kingdoms remain elusive. The sheer scale of the Amazon, combined with the dense foliage and difficult terrain, makes excavation a challenging and time-consuming endeavor. What lies beneath the surface of the forest? Are there still entire cities, buried beneath centuries of soil, waiting to be rediscovered? The mystery of the lost city of the Amazon challenges our understanding of history and the capabilities of ancient civilizations. It forces us to reconsider what we know about the relationship between humans and the environment, and it raises profound questions about the nature of human ingenuity and resilience. As we look toward the future, we are left to wonder, what might still be hidden in the heart of the Amazon? What civilizations, with their knowledge, culture, and technologies, are waiting to be uncovered? And what stories will they reveal once the jungle finally yields its secrets? In the vast and mysterious expanse of the Amazon, the search for lost kingdoms continues. With each new discovery, we are reminded that the past is never truly gone. It is simply waiting to be found. As we move from the hidden kingdoms of the Amazon to the shadowy world of ancient Egypt, we are drawn into yet another mystery, one that lies in the tombs of pharaohs buried beneath the sands for millennia. It is a mystery marked by intricate craftsmanship, divine symbolism, and an unsettling question. What are the true purposes of the Egyptian canopic jars? These small, ornately decorated vessels, once thought to be mere containers for the preservation of human organs, hold secrets that, even today, continue to fascinate and intrigue archaeologists, historians, and those who dare to look deeper into the practices of ancient Egypt. The canopic jars were an integral part of the mummification process, designed to hold the internal organs of the deceased. In ancient Egyptian belief, the preservation of the body was crucial for the journey to the afterlife, and the organs, heart, lungs, stomach, and intestines, were seen as essential to the soul's survival. The jars themselves were made from various materials, including limestone, wood, and in some cases, glass or clay, and they were often decorated with intricate symbols and faces. These were not just functional objects, but were imbued with spiritual significance, each jar representing a different protective deity that would guard the organs and ensure the deceased's safe passage to the afterlife. The 4 canopic jars, typically associated with royal and elite burials, were designed to hold the organs that had been carefully removed during the embalming process. Each jar was devoted to a specific organ and had its own protective deity. The jar for the stomach was usually guarded by Duamutef, the jackal-headed god. The lungs were protected by Hapi, the baboon-headed god. The intestines were guarded by Mseti, the human-headed god. And the liver, often preserved in a separate jar, was protected by Kebesenwef, the falcon-headed god. But while the purpose of these jars seems straightforward, protecting the organs of the dead, there are deeper mysteries surrounding them that have sparked endless debate. For instance, why were the organs separated and placed in different vessels? And why did the Egyptians choose specific gods to guard them? Could there be more to the story of the canopic jars than simply their role in the preservation of the body? Could they hold a secret meaning that has yet to be unlocked? One of the key questions surrounding the canopic jars is whether they were solely concerned with the physical preservation of the organs, or whether they played a role in the spiritual journey of the deceased. The ancient Egyptians believed that the soul, or Ka, continued to exist after death, and that it needed to be protected and nourished in the afterlife. The gods represented by the Canopic jars were guardians of both the body and the soul, and their role in the mummification process was seen as a way to ensure that the deceased's spiritual journey would be unhindered. But here's where things become intriguing. Not all ancient Egyptian burials included canopic jars. In fact, many ordinary individuals, particularly those of lower status, were buried without them. Some mummies were simply buried with their organs inside their body, and some did not undergo the elaborate mummification process at all. Was this an exclusive practice for the elite? Or were there deeper reasons why some individuals received this particular form of protection and others did not? One of the most fascinating aspects of the canopic jars is their symbolism. The faces on the jars are often striking, and some jars display faces that resemble those of the deceased, while others show human-headed gods, as mentioned before. These faces, however, do not always align with the deities traditionally associated with the organs. In some cases, the gods' faces appear on jars meant for different organs, causing some scholars to question the rigidness of the system. Could these inconsistencies indicate that there was some level of personal or divine intervention in the way the jars were arranged? Or was there a hidden message encoded in the discrepancies between the jars and their deities? While the canopic jars are well-documented artifacts, some of their more mysterious aspects lie in the way they seem to be connected to a much larger understanding of Egyptian religion and spirituality. For example, some archaeologists have noted that in later periods, the jars sometimes became more elaborate and were even placed in tombs with special chambers or shrines. This led to the theory that the jars could have also been vessels of protection, not just for the organs, but for the deceased's entire being, acting as sacred objects that facilitated the transition between life and death, and perhaps even preserving the consciousness of the dead. Some have even suggested that the jars might have had a more practical role. Given that many tombs, particularly royal tombs, were looted in antiquity, could the canopic jars have been used as a form of spiritual defense? Were they created not just to preserve the physical body, but to deter would-be tomb robbers who might have desecrated the tomb to gain access to precious burial goods? In some interpretations, the canopic jars themselves were seen as a magical safeguard against both physical and spiritual harm. Then there is the strange phenomenon of the K, the spiritual double of the deceased. The ancient Egyptians believed that each person had a K, a non-physical essence that needed to be nurtured and protected in the afterlife. Could the canopic jars have also represented a kind of vessel for the K, a way of storing the essence of the deceased's vitality and soul? This idea remains highly speculative, but raises important questions about the Egyptian understanding of life and death. The canopic jars were part of an elaborate burial practice that extended far beyond the preservation of the body. Many royal tombs, including that of Tutankhamun, contained these jars, found in places like the tomb's burial chamber or side rooms, often surrounded by other priceless artifacts and treasures. But for all their craftsmanship and apparent importance, the jars themselves have remained relatively enigmatic, despite centuries of study. What did the Egyptians truly believe about the afterlife? And what role did these jars play in their grand vision of death and immortality? What is even more mysterious is that the canopic jars were not always consistent in form, design, and use. Sometimes the jars were made from materials like glass or ivory, and sometimes from less durable substances like clay. Was this a practical decision based on resources, or was there a deeper reason for the differing materials? The materials could suggest an evolution of religious practices over time, or might point to the changing needs and resources of the ancient Egyptians. Could the jars have evolved in response to different cultural or spiritual beliefs? In examining the history of the canopic jars, it becomes clear that there is much more to these seemingly straightforward objects than we first believed. From their intricate designs and spiritual symbolism to their possible role in protecting the Ka and aiding the deceased on their journey to the afterlife, the jars represent a gateway into a world of mystery and unknowns. Were they merely physical containers for the body's organs? Or did they serve a far deeper spiritual purpose, one that has yet to be fully understood? As we look at the ornate carvings, the vibrant faces of the gods, and the subtle intricacies of these ancient vessels, we cannot help but wonder, what secrets do the Canopic jars still hold? Will we ever fully understand their true purpose? Or are we left to wonder if they were merely a piece of a larger, forgotten puzzle, a mystery that time and the sands of Egypt may have concealed forever? As we move deeper into the mysteries of the ancient world, we are drawn to one of the most famous and secretive locations on the planet, the Vatican. A global center of religion, history, and art, the Vatican holds countless treasures within its walls, but it is also home to something far less visible. Hidden beneath its sacred grounds lie catacombs, a labyrinth of tunnels that have been shrouded in mystery for centuries. While millions of visitors marvel at the Vatican's public treasures, few are aware of the secrets concealed beneath the surface, secrets that have sparked fascination, speculation, and, in some cases, outright fear. The Vatican catacombs, as they are known, are part of an extensive network of underground passages that stretch beneath the Vatican Hill. Historically, catacombs were used for burial, and the ones beneath the Vatican were no different, serving as resting places for the Christian martyrs of the early centuries, who were buried in secret during times of persecution. These catacombs, dating back to the 2nd and 3rd centuries AD, hold the remains of early Christians who sought refuge beneath the earth during Roman rule. They were places of both death and worship, with elaborate frescoes and inscriptions marking the graves of the faithful. But as the centuries passed and the Vatican grew in influence, the catacombs began to fade from the public consciousness. They were abandoned, forgotten in the shadows of the mighty structures above them. Yet, there are whispers of hidden chambers, undiscovered artifacts, and even secrets buried so deep that they may never be revealed. The very fact that much of the Vatican's subterranean realm is off-limits to the public adds to the mystery. What exactly lies hidden in these forbidden spaces? What knowledge, or perhaps even dangers, do these ancient tunnels conceal? The catacombs beneath the Vatican have been explored to some extent by historians and archaeologists, but much of the area remains unexplored. Many of the tunnels are sealed off, their entrances guarded by thick stone doors or hidden beneath layers of rubble. Some areas, still unknown to the general public, are said to stretch deep into the heart of the Vatican's vast underground domain. These inaccessible regions are rumored to contain ancient manuscripts, lost relics, or even the remains of influential figures, but the Vatican has largely kept these claims in the realm of speculation. What makes the Vatican's catacombs particularly intriguing is the contrast between what is publicly known and what remains hidden. The Vatican museums, for example, house an extensive collection of ancient art, religious artifacts, and manuscripts, many of which are centuries old. Visitors are led through grand halls filled with works from the Renaissance and beyond, but few are ever told about the catacombs beneath their feet. Why has this vast underground world remained so secretive? Could there be objects or knowledge stored in these hidden chambers that the Vatican wishes to keep out of the public eye? In some accounts, the Vatican's catacombs are said to be home to relics of untold importance, from secret early Christian texts to ancient scrolls that could challenge the understanding of religion, history, or even human origins. There have been claims that documents of profound theological significance, perhaps even those that could shake the foundations of Christianity itself, have been hidden away in the catacombs for centuries. Could the Vatican, the epicenter of the Catholic Church, be guarding knowledge that has been deliberately suppressed? Another intriguing aspect of the catacombs is their connection to the legends of the Holy Grail. Some have speculated that the catacombs may contain clues to the Grail's true location, or even that the Grail itself might be hidden there. While these claims lean more toward the realm of fringe theory, they are nonetheless compelling. For centuries, the idea of the Holy Grail has been tied to mystical and religious secrets. Could the catacombs be the final resting place of this elusive artifact? Some have pointed to the deep, hidden passages beneath the Vatican as the perfect place to conceal such a powerful symbol of faith. In addition to religious relics and manuscripts, there are those who believe the catacombs might be home to the remains of key figures from the early Christian era, including some of the apostles or saints whose names are etched into the foundations of Christianity. The Vatican itself holds many relics of saints and martyrs, but what if there were more, deeper within the earth? Could the bones of a forgotten saint lie undisturbed in one of these sealed-off chambers, waiting to be rediscovered? Or might the remains of someone far more controversial, someone whose life and death have been kept hidden for reasons unknown, lie in one of these tombs? But perhaps the most chilling and persistent mystery surrounding the Vatican's catacombs lies in their association with secrecy and the unknown. Throughout history, the Vatican has been a place of both great transparency and deep secrecy, with layers of hidden knowledge carefully guarded from the public. Some believe that this secrecy extends to the catacombs themselves. Could there be ancient artifacts buried in these tunnels? Artifacts tied to powerful religious or mystical knowledge that the Vatican fears could alter the course of history if made public? Or is there something far darker hidden beneath these sacred grounds? Over the years, there have been rumors of strange occurrences within the catacombs, whispers of unexplained phenomena, ghostly apparitions, and eerie sounds heard deep within the tunnels. Some claim that those who have ventured too far into the depths of the catacombs have felt an overwhelming sense of dread or a presence that cannot be explained. Is this simply the result of the catacombs' long history as a burial site, or is there something more, something inexplicable and ancient, that causes these strange experiences? Though some catacombs, like the famous Catacombs of St. Calixtus, are open to the public, most of the Vatican's underground spaces remain off-limits. With the passage of time and the ongoing preservation efforts of the Vatican, it seems unlikely that many of these catacombs will ever be fully explored. Some believe that this is a deliberate effort to keep certain knowledge hidden from the world, but whether this is true remains an open question. As it stands, the catacombs of the Vatican remain one of the most mysterious and unexplored regions of the Catholic Church's history. The secrets buried in these dark, silent corridors may never come to light. But with each new discovery in the Vatican, with each new excavation, the possibility remains that something profound may be waiting to be uncovered. Could the catacombs beneath the Vatican hold the key to a forgotten chapter in history? A piece of lost knowledge that might change everything we thought we knew about the past? Or are these ancient passages simply the tombs of long-dead Christians, their stories forever lost in the shadows? For now, the Vatican's hidden catacombs remain locked away from the world, a dark and silent reminder that some mysteries may never be solved. What might they contain, and who is truly guarding these ancient secrets? These questions continue to linger, unanswered and haunting, beneath the surface of one of the world's most powerful institutions. The Earth itself holds a history older than any written records, its silent testimony etched into the very landscape. In the quiet hills of Japan, scattered across the countryside like ancient sentinels, lie the Kofun burial mounds, enigmatic structures that have stood for over 1,500 years, their origins, purposes, and secrets still shrouded in mystery. These mounds, some of which are so large they can be seen from miles away, are far more than simple graves. They are relics of a distant era, guardians of forgotten kings, and perhaps even the very key to understanding the rise of Japan itself. The Kofun period, which lasted from the 3rd to the 7th centuries AD, represents a pivotal chapter in Japanese history. It was during this time that Japan began to emerge from the haze of prehistory as the first recognizable kingdoms began to form. The Kofun Mounds are intimately tied to this transformation. These monumental burial sites are associated with Japan's earliest aristocracy, the powerful figures who would go on to shape the future of the island nation. But as vast as the mounds are, their true purpose remains a subject of fierce debate and speculation. The largest of the Kofun mounds, like the famous Daisen Kofun in Osaka, are truly awe-inspiring in scale. Some of these burial mounds are over 400 meters in length, and many are shaped in the form of a keyhole, with a wide, rounded front and a narrow, tapering back. From the air, they resemble a keyhole-shaped tomb, an ancient symbol, perhaps, of life and death, a portal between the living and the spirits of the ancestors. The sheer magnitude of these structures suggests that the people who built them had access to remarkable resources, as well as a highly organized workforce. But despite the grandiosity of these burial mounds, the details surrounding them remain elusive. Who were these figures buried here? Why were such monumental tombs constructed for them? And what, if anything, lies hidden within these sacred mounds? The Kofun mounds themselves are often surrounded by deep moats and protective walls, their earth carefully arranged to create an imposing structure. Inside, they hold the remains of the dead, often accompanied by a rich array of grave goods, including pottery, weapons, and tools. These offerings, however, are sometimes surprisingly modest compared to the grandness of the tombs. Many of the tombs remain unopened, their contents untouched for centuries, and in some cases, the true contents of the burial mounds may never be known. Could these tombs contain objects of immeasurable cultural or historical significance? Or are the secrets of these mounds forever lost to time? One of the most curious aspects of the Kofun burial mounds is the apparent isolation of the figures buried within them. Unlike many other ancient burial practices where the deceased were buried alongside large groups of people, the Kofun mounds seem to focus exclusively on individual elite figures, leaders, warriors, or nobles, each with their own massive burial mound. This suggests a highly stratified society, with clear divisions of power and status. But who were these powerful figures, and why were they given such elaborate burial sites? Some scholars suggest that these individuals were the first rulers of Japan, perhaps even the ancestors of the imperial family. But others propose more speculative theories. Could these leaders have been foreign in origin, brought to Japan from distant lands? Were they the product of an earlier, now vanished civilization, one whose history was erased over time? Or were they truly the first homegrown aristocracy of Japan, emerging from the misty origins of the nation? In some cases, the items discovered within the Kofun mounds hint at connections to distant lands, raising even more questions. The grave goods found within some of these tombs include elaborate bronze mirrors, iron weapons, and intricate jewelry, items that suggest contact with mainland Asia, especially the Korean peninsula and China. The style and craftsmanship of these objects point to influences from the continent, but it is unclear how far these connections extended. Was Japan simply a part of the vast trade networks that connected East Asia, or did it play a more active role in the spread of ideas and technology? Could the Kofun tombs be evidence of a larger, forgotten network of kingdoms stretching across the seas? Adding to the intrigue is the mysterious presence of haniwa, clay figurines that often surround the burial mounds. These figures are enigmatic in their own right, ranging from simple geometric shapes to detailed representations of warriors, animals, and even houses. The Haniwa are believed to serve as guardians of the tombs, but their purpose remains speculative. Some researchers suggest that they were designed to ward off evil spirits, while others propose that they played a role in the religious or ceremonial practices associated with the dead. The fact that Haniwa were placed on the tomb's exterior rather than inside adds an additional layer of mystery. Were they meant to protect the living, or were they there to guide the dead on their journey to the afterlife? What makes the Kofun mounds even more captivating is the absence of clear historical records from the period. Although Japan's imperial family traces its lineage to the legendary Emperor Jimmu, who is said to have ascended the throne in 660 BC, the historical evidence for the early years of the imperial dynasty is sparse. This has led some historians to question whether the Kofun mounds may hold the key to understanding the origins of Japan's imperial system. Could the rulers buried in these mounds have been the progenitors of the imperial family, or did the tradition of monarchy emerge from a different source altogether? Some believe that the imperial family's connection to these early burial mounds is a deliberate fabrication, created to bolster the legitimacy of later rulers. Others suggest that the Kofun tombs could offer a more complex, multifaceted view of early Japanese society, one that involves multiple lines of descent and influence from outside the islands. There are also those who propose more fantastical theories, ones that place the Kofun mounds at the center of a global mystery. Some fringe scholars suggest that the mound's distinctive keyhole shape mirrors the burial practices of other ancient cultures, such as the ancient Egyptians, and that the Kofun mounds could be evidence of a long-lost, worldwide civilization with far-reaching connections. Others suggest that the tombs themselves could conceal hidden technologies or lost knowledge, buried away by ancient leaders to keep it from falling into the wrong hands. One of the most significant unanswered questions surrounding the Kofun mounds is what, if anything, lies inside them. While many tombs have been looted over the centuries, some have remained untouched. What treasures might remain in these sealed chambers, treasures that could shed light on the lives and customs of those buried there? What artifacts might be waiting to be uncovered that could rewrite the history of early Japan, and perhaps even reveal connections to other ancient cultures? The very fact that so many of these tombs remain closed to modern excavation only heightens the mystery, leaving us to wonder if the answers lie beneath the earth, waiting to be unearthed. The Kofun burial mounds are silent witnesses to a distant past, an era whose true nature remains elusive. They stand as symbols of power, influence, and the complex social structures that defined early Japanese society. But the questions they pose remain unanswered. Who were the powerful figures buried within these monumental mounds? What, if anything, did they know or possess that has been lost to time, and will we ever uncover the secrets hidden beneath these massive earthworks? As long as the Kofun mounds stand, the mystery remains, an enigma that continues to invite exploration and speculation. What remains buried in the hills of Japan, nestled in the ancient quarries of Aswan, Egypt, lies an enigma that has fascinated archaeologists, historians, and mystery seekers for centuries. The Unfinished Obelisk, partially carved into the rock of the Egyptian desert, stands as both a monument to ancient ambition and a testament to a project abandoned before completion. The colossal stone, once intended to be one of the largest obelisks ever created, lies abandoned in its quarry, its unfinished form inviting both awe and curiosity. Its story is a paradox, one of grandeur and failure, of human ingenuity and unforeseen challenges. The site itself is striking, a vast, desolate space filled with the echoes of ancient labor. The granite obelisk, over 41 meters long and weighing an estimated 1,200 tons, seems frozen in time, suspended between creation and destruction. The surrounding quarry walls are deeply etched with the marks of ancient tools, revealing the methodical work of craftsmen who, at some point in history, abandoned their task. The stone lies half-formed, as though it was never meant to be finished, its edges rough, its surface marred by large cracks that hint at the difficulty of the undertaking. For thousands of years, it has remained here, a silent witness to the passage of time and the mystery of why it was never completed. The story of the Unfinished Obelisk is not just about a giant stone that failed to reach its full potential, but about a larger puzzle surrounding the technological and societal ambitions of ancient Egypt. Obelisks themselves were monumental symbols of power, with their towering spires reaching toward the heavens, often associated with the sun god Ra. These monolithic structures were meant to honor gods, commemorate rulers, and solidify the might of Egypt. Typically, obelisks were carved from a single block of stone, transported across great distances, and erected at the entrance of temples to catch the first rays of the morning sun. The Unfinished Obelisk, however, was different. While many obelisks were carefully planned and executed, the story of this one's abandonment speaks to something far more complex. Was it the result of a sudden disruption in the workforce? Perhaps a political upheaval or a change in leadership? Or was it a failure of technology, an unforeseen flaw in the stone itself, making its completion impossible? What remains, carved into the bedrock, is not a triumph of Egyptian engineering, but a silent, unfinished testament to human ambition and the limits of what even the greatest civilizations can achieve. Archaeologists have offered various explanations for the obelisk's abrupt halt in construction. One of the most widely accepted theories is that the obelisk was abandoned due to cracks that appeared in the stone while it was being hewn. These cracks, which run through the center of the obelisk, might have rendered the stone unstable and unsuitable for the intended purpose. The immense weight of the obelisk, combined with the force of tools striking the stone, could have caused these fractures to worsen, leading the workers to abandon the project altogether. This theory fits within the framework of known ancient Egyptian practices. If a block was deemed unfit for transport or construction, it would simply be left behind. But even as this explanation provides a plausible solution, it fails to account for all the details surrounding the site. For instance, why would the workers have gone to the trouble of carving a stone so large, so ambitious, only to abandon it at such a late stage? What would have led them to begin such a massive project in the first place? And what forces were at play to make them halt it just short of completion? Could it have been a matter of resources? Perhaps an unexpected shortage of labor, tools, or supplies? Or could the abandonment be tied to a larger political or religious shift within ancient Egypt? After all, such projects were often commissioned by pharaohs, and a change in leadership could have led to the sudden cessation of a project deemed unnecessary or outdated by the new ruler. While these conventional explanations are plausible, they only scratch the surface of a much deeper mystery. Some fringe theories venture into more speculative territory, raising questions that seem to defy the boundaries of historical understanding. One theory, for example, posits that the Unfinished Obelisk might have been deliberately abandoned due to its perceived mystical or cosmic significance. The ancient Egyptians were known for their intricate beliefs surrounding the afterlife, the cosmos, and the divine order. Could the stone, once carved and shaped, have been deemed too powerful or dangerous to complete? Could it have been left unfinished because it was believed to possess a force that would disrupt the natural flow of energy or time? Such ideas are difficult to prove, but they speak to the depth of mystery surrounding the site, a site that, despite centuries of study, continues to reveal only fragments of its true purpose. Another curious possibility revolves around the method of construction itself. While it is generally accepted that ancient Egyptians used simple tools, copper chisels, wooden wedges, and hammers, some researchers have suggested that they may have had access to more advanced technologies, now lost to history. Could there have been some technological breakthrough or unknown technique that allowed for the carving of such colossal structures, only for it to be lost or forgotten? This theory raises more questions than it answers, and the absence of any concrete evidence only adds to its mystique. Further complicating the story of the Unfinished Obelisk is its potential connection to other unexplained ancient structures around the world. Some theorists draw parallels between the Unfinished Obelisk and the megalithic stones found in other ancient cultures, suggesting that these giant stones may have once been part of a greater, interconnected network of monumental constructions, built with a technology or knowledge that has since vanished. Could there have been a global or pan-Egyptian effort to build massive stone structures, with some of them abandoned before they could be finished? And what, exactly, would the purpose of these projects have been? The Unfinished Obelisk, as it stands today, remains an open question in the study of ancient Egyptian history. While mainstream scholars continue to explore the site's historical context, attempting to understand the practical reasons behind its abandonment, there are those who believe that the obelisk's incomplete form hides a deeper, perhaps even mystical, significance. Its unfinished state might symbolize more than just a failed construction project. It might be a message from the past, a reminder that not all of history has been understood, and that there are still mysteries waiting to be uncovered. The mystery of the Unfinished Obelisk, in its vastness and its stillness, invites us to look beyond the conventional explanations, urging us to consider the possibility that there is more to this ancient site than meets the eye. Was it abandoned due to a simple flaw in the stone, or is there something about its unfinished nature that continues to hold power even thousands of years later? And as we stand at the edge of the quarry, gazing at the massive, incomplete form of the obelisk, we are left to wonder, what secrets remain buried within this stone, and what truths might still be hidden in the sands of time? Deep beneath the forests and fields of Central Europe, there exists a hidden network of tunnels, their entrances obscured by moss-covered stone and forgotten earth. Known as the Erdstall Tunnels, these subterranean passageways have puzzled historians, archaeologists, and explorers for centuries. For the most part, the Erdstall Tunnels remain invisible to the casual observer, often little more than faint traces in the landscape. Yet, once discovered, they reveal themselves as intricate, winding corridors, their purpose and origin shrouded in mystery. The Erdstalls are not the kind of tunnels that you might associate with ancient civilizations or early underground architecture. Unlike the grand catacombs of Rome or the well-planned tombs of Egypt, the Erdstalls appear disorienting and inconsistent in their design. They are narrow, often no more than a meter wide, and their ceilings are low, forcing those who dare enter to crouch and crawl through their dark, humid passageways. These tunnels do not follow any obvious pattern. They wind and curve with little regard for logic, sometimes leading to dead ends, sometimes opening into small, concealed chambers. Their walls are rough, often unworked, and the floors are uneven, making it clear that no advanced engineering techniques were used in their construction. Some sections appear hastily carved, while others display signs of more careful digging, suggesting that multiple generations may have been involved in their creation. What makes the Erdstall tunnels truly intriguing, however, is their age and the mystery surrounding their purpose. Though they have been known for centuries, their origins remain uncertain. The first recorded discovery of Erdstalls dates back to the early 19th century, but it is likely that these tunnels were used much earlier, perhaps as far back as the medieval period, or even earlier, in the time of the Celts. Some of the tunnels are found beneath old castles or churches, while others stretch across rural landscapes, often near settlements or ancient burial mounds. Despite this wide distribution, the tunnels have not been extensively studied, and many remain hidden or inaccessible. The most widely accepted theory is that the Erdstalls were created for defensive purposes during times of conflict. The narrow, cramped passages would have made it difficult for invaders or attackers to navigate, providing a form of protection for the local population. In such a scenario, the tunnels could have served as emergency escape routes, allowing villagers or soldiers to flee to safety in times of siege or war. The tight corridors would have been an effective means of concealing both people and goods, preventing discovery by hostile forces. Some historians point to the historical record, which suggests that many of the castles and towns in the region were involved in frequent conflicts during the medieval period, as proof that these tunnels could have served a defensive function. Yet, the idea of the Erdstalls being solely defensive structures does not fully account for all their peculiarities. For one, many of the tunnels do not lead to any obvious defensive position. Some appear to go nowhere, while others end abruptly in chambers with no exit, as if they were never meant to be used as escape routes. Additionally, there are certain features within the tunnels that challenge the defensive theory. The entrances to the tunnels are often hidden, sometimes requiring careful inspection to locate. This suggests that the creators of the Erdstalls intended for them to remain concealed, which raises questions about why such secrecy would be necessary in a purely defensive context. Another theory posits that the Erdstalls may have had a religious or ritualistic significance. The tunnel's winding, labyrinthine structure has led some to speculate that they were part of a form of underground worship, perhaps connected to ancient pagan rites or mystery cults. In this theory, the tunnels were not merely utilitarian, but served as sacred spaces, where individuals or groups could seek refuge, perform rituals, or commune with the divine in secret. The Erdstalls are found in areas with a long history of spiritual significance, near burial sites, ancient shrines, and early Christian churches, which strengthens the argument that they may have had a spiritual purpose. However, the lack of artifacts, such as altars or inscriptions, complicates this theory. While some tunnels have been found with faint markings on their walls, they are too vague to offer conclusive evidence of religious activity. The more one delves into the mystery of the Erdstalls, the more one encounters contradictions. The tunnels appear to have been built using rudimentary tools, with some sections featuring traces of fire or heat, suggesting that the creators may have employed primitive methods to soften the stone. Yet, the sheer number of tunnels, their distribution across the landscape, and the effort involved in their construction point to a larger, more coordinated effort, one that would have required more than just a few individuals. Who were the people behind this monumental task, and what motivated them to create such a complex and seemingly unnecessary network of underground passages? As the years pass and new discoveries are made, some researchers have begun to entertain more speculative theories. One such theory, for instance, suggests that the Erdstalls may have been constructed by an unknown pre-Christian culture, long before the medieval period. These theorists argue that the design of the tunnels, particularly their labyrinthine nature, resembles those of other ancient cultures known for their underground structures, such as the underground cities of Cappadocia in modern-day Turkey. Could the Erdstalls have been the work of an ancient civilization, now lost to history? If so, what might have driven this civilization to create such a vast network of tunnels? Was there a need for secrecy, or was there something deeper at play? Perhaps a cultural or spiritual practice that we have yet to understand? Others have speculated that the tunnels may have been connected to broader trans-European networks of underground sites, an idea that stretches the boundaries of known history. If these tunnels were indeed built for purposes beyond simple defense or religion, could they have been part of an elaborate system of communication, trade, or even protection against a threat that we no longer recognize? The fact that many of the tunnels are located near ancient burial mounds or sacred sites only deepens the mystery, raising questions about how these underground passages might have related to the broader spiritual or cultural landscape of ancient Europe. Despite numerous investigations, the true purpose of the Erdstalls remains elusive. Some tunnels have been studied more extensively than others, but many still lie hidden beneath the earth, their secrets locked away. Archaeologists continue to explore these enigmatic structures, trying to piece together the puzzle, but for all the work that has been done, the mystery remains. The Erdstall Tunnels, with their winding, claustrophobic corridors and their unsettling emptiness, continue to stand as a reminder of the past, of a time when people lived in close-knit communities and the mysteries of the earth were still hidden beneath their feet. What drove the creation of these tunnels? Why were they built with such care and secrecy? And perhaps most intriguingly, what might still lie hidden within their depths, waiting to be discovered? Beneath the towering stone walls of the Great Pyramid of Giza, one of the most iconic structures ever built by humankind, lies a mystery that has confounded archaeologists, explorers, and historians for centuries. While the pyramid is renowned for its grandeur, precision, and monumental scale, there are secrets buried deep within its very foundation. Hidden tunnels, chambers, and passages, some of which remain unexplored or even entirely unknown. The Great Pyramid, built during the 4th dynasty of Egypt, around 2580 BC, has long been a symbol of Egypt's architectural genius and spiritual significance. Standing over 140 meters tall, its massive blocks of limestone and granite are meticulously arranged, showcasing a level of precision and craftsmanship that still astounds modern engineers. The purpose of the pyramid, traditionally understood, was to serve as a tomb for the pharaoh Khufu, ensuring his passage into the afterlife. The pyramid was not merely a tomb, but a complex structure meant to house the king's earthly possessions, safeguard his body, and guide his spirit to the next world. Yet, despite centuries of exploration and study, there is still much about the Great Pyramid that remains veiled in mystery. The known chambers, such as the King's Chamber, Queen's Chamber, and the Grand Gallery, are awe-inspiring in their own right, but they represent only a small fraction of what the pyramid may hold. Over the years, researchers have speculated that there are hidden chambers and tunnels yet to be discovered within the structure's labyrinthine heart. Some believe these passages could hold keys to unlocking new understandings of ancient Egyptian religion, politics, or even technology. One of the most intriguing aspects of the Great Pyramid is its hidden, or long-lost, tunnels. The presence of these hidden passages has been the subject of intense scrutiny ever since early explorers began to probe the interior of the pyramid. Notably, the pyramid's design, its alignment with the cardinal points, its complex network of shafts, and its seemingly deliberate irregularities, suggests that it may have been designed with hidden spaces in mind. The first recorded discovery of a hidden passageway within the Great Pyramid occurred in the early 19th century, when the explorer Giovanni Caviglia, while attempting to clear rubble from the Grand Gallery, reported seeing evidence of an undiscovered shaft. This shaft, later referred to as the air shaft, seemed to lead into the walls of the pyramid, but it was blocked off and left unexplored. Similar air shafts have been discovered in other parts of the pyramid, notably in the King's and Queen's chambers, where they lead to small openings in the pyramid's outer shell. These shafts have puzzled archaeologists for centuries. Why were they built? What was their function? And why, after thousands of years, are they still sealed? In more recent times, technology has revealed even more about the pyramid's hidden interior. In the 1990s, with the help of ground-penetrating radar and muon tomography, an imaging technique that detects the presence of hidden chambers using cosmic particles, researchers have uncovered hints of unexplored spaces within the pyramid's core. One such finding, in 2017, revealed the presence of a large unexplained void within the pyramid's structure, located above the Grand Gallery. This discovery reignited questions about the pyramid's construction, purpose, and the possible existence of previously unknown chambers or passageways. But despite the advances in technology, the true nature of these hidden tunnels and chambers remains uncertain. Some scholars believe the pyramid was designed with secret chambers to facilitate the pharaoh's journey into the afterlife, in accordance with the ancient Egyptian belief that the soul needed to be safeguarded on its voyage to the stars. These tunnels might have been designed as part of a symbolic or ritualistic system, possibly to guide the pharaoh's spirit or to protect his body from tomb robbers. It is also possible that they served a more practical function, such as providing access to the pyramid's interior during its construction, or to facilitate ventilation for workers. However, the existence of the hidden tunnels has also given rise to more speculative theories, many of which suggest that the Great Pyramid may have been built with a knowledge and technology far beyond what is traditionally attributed to the ancient Egyptians. Could these tunnels, and the voids within the pyramid, have been created for purposes that we have yet to fully comprehend? Some have speculated that they were part of a much larger, even mystical design, perhaps linked to ancient astronomical alignments, or even to the mysterious construction techniques that enabled the Egyptians to build such a massive structure with such precision. Could the pyramid have been more than just a tomb? Could it have served as a machine, a tool with an unknown purpose, perhaps tied to energy, astronomy, or even time itself? One fringe theory that has circulated for years posits that the pyramid's hidden chambers could contain something far more extraordinary than simple burial goods. Some have suggested that the pyramid may have been a repository for advanced technology, knowledge, or tools that were lost to history. According to this theory, the hidden tunnels and voids within the Great Pyramid might have been built to conceal powerful artifacts or knowledge from a distant, lost civilization. These ideas, while lacking concrete evidence, reflect the sense of wonder that surrounds the Great Pyramid, an artifact of such scale and complexity that it seems almost too perfect, too precisely constructed to be the product of the ancient Egyptians alone. Others argue that the purpose of the tunnels might be more symbolic than practical, perhaps tied to the ancient Egyptian rituals surrounding death and rebirth. The labyrinthine passages within the pyramid could have served as a metaphor for the journey the soul must take after death, an arduous path through darkness and uncertainty before reaching the light of the afterlife. If this was indeed their purpose, the hidden tunnels might not have been meant for any physical use at all, but instead for spiritual or ritualistic reasons. Despite the many theories, there is still no definitive explanation for the hidden tunnels of the Great Pyramid. Modern archaeologists and Egyptologists continue to probe the pyramid's mysteries, using new technologies to peer deeper into its stone walls, yet the tunnels remain elusive. Some passages have been found and partially explored, but most remain sealed, waiting for the right moment, or the right breakthrough, to reveal their secrets. The Great Pyramid of Giza, with its towering presence and profound enigma, continues to stand as a symbol of ancient Egypt's grandeur and mystery, and as we peer into its shadowy depths, guided only by the faintest traces of knowledge, we are reminded that some of history's greatest secrets are still locked away, waiting to be uncovered. What purpose do these hidden tunnels truly serve? And perhaps more importantly, what might still lie within them, waiting to be discovered? The pyramid's greatest secrets may still be hidden, and only time, and perhaps a new generation of explorers, will tell what lies beneath its ancient stones. In the heart of Delhi, India, amidst the vibrant chaos of modern life, stands a remarkable relic from the ancient past. A towering, rust-free iron pillar that has perplexed historians, metallurgists, and engineers for over a millennium. This seemingly simple structure, known as the Iron Pillar of Delhi, is not just a feat of ancient craftsmanship, but a testament to a level of technological sophistication that, even today, remains difficult to fully explain. Standing 7.2 meters tall and weighing over 6 tons, the pillar has drawn countless scholars and curious onlookers to its base, intrigued by the enigma it presents. At first glance, the iron pillar seems like a straightforward monument, a column of iron, adorned with inscriptions in Sanskrit, and standing proudly as a symbol of India's ancient glory. Yet beneath its surface lies a puzzle that has baffled generations. The pillar, despite being over 1,600 years old, remains virtually free of rust, an extraordinary phenomenon that defies the common expectations of rusting metal. It has withstood centuries of exposure to the harsh elements, rain, heat, and humidity, without the typical corrosion that would be expected of such an ancient object. Even more intriguing is the question of how this was achieved. How did ancient Indian metallurgists craft such a durable material, and why does the pillar remain so remarkably preserved? The origins of the iron pillar are not entirely clear, but it is generally believed to have been constructed during the reign of Chandragupta II, also known as Vikramaditya, around 400 AD. The pillar's inscriptions are thought to commemorate his achievements, marking his reign as a period of great prosperity and cultural flourishing. The inscriptions themselves are an important part of the pillar's mystery. Written in a form of Sanskrit known as Prakrit, they contain historical details about the Gupta Empire, its rulers, and the empire's achievements. The pillar's inscription, however, is far more than just a historical document. It also contains a code that some believe could unlock a deeper understanding of its purpose and the knowledge behind its creation. The pillar was originally erected in what is now known as the Qutb complex in Delhi, a UNESCO World Heritage Site that also houses the famous Qutb Minar, another ancient tower that rises above the city's skyline. The iron pillar was positioned in this complex not by accident, but as part of a deliberate architectural and symbolic arrangement. The precise alignment and location of the pillar hint at its potential astronomical and spiritual significance. It is speculated that the pillar was originally part of a larger temple complex or a structure devoted to worship, though no concrete evidence has been found to confirm this. But it is the material composition and construction methods that continue to draw the most attention. The iron used in the pillar is remarkably pure, far purer than what would have been achievable with the technology known to have existed in the ancient world. Ancient Indian metallurgists, particularly in the Gupta period, were known for their expertise in working with metals, but the methods used to create the iron pillar seem to surpass what we know about ancient metallurgy. In fact, the iron's purity and the pillar's resistance to corrosion were so advanced that they were not replicated until the 19th century, when Western scientists began to explore the production of high-quality wrought iron. The question that immediately arises is, how did these ancient metallurgists possess such advanced knowledge? A plausible explanation comes from the field of materials science. The pillar's corrosion resistance can be attributed to the presence of a protective layer of passive oxide that forms on its surface. This oxide layer prevents further oxidation and protects the metal beneath it from the ravages of time and weather. In the case of the iron pillar of Delhi, this layer is particularly thick, a factor that has contributed to the pillar's remarkable preservation. Some experts suggest that the high phosphorus content in the iron itself could have played a role in creating this protective layer. However, this still raises the question of how such precise knowledge of metallurgy was possessed by the Gupta artisans. Was this knowledge passed down from earlier civilizations, or was it a unique achievement of the Gupta period? Beyond the technical explanations, there are more speculative theories that venture into the realm of the mysterious. Some believe that the pillar's resistance to corrosion is no mere accident, but rather the result of a deeper, perhaps even mystical purpose. Could the iron pillar be more than just a commemorative monument? Could it be a form of ancient technology, a device designed to harness cosmic or natural energies, whose secrets are hidden within its design? The alignment of the pillar with astronomical phenomena and its near-perfect preservation invite such questions, suggesting that its purpose might transcend the mundane act of marking a ruler's reign. In recent years, some researchers have pointed out the possibility that the pillar was designed with advanced knowledge of metallurgy that might have been lost to history. Could the ancients have used methods now forgotten to us? Some have speculated that the pillar might be linked to a greater network of ancient technologies, much like the lost knowledge of the pyramids or the ancient civilizations of Mesopotamia. The idea that the iron pillar could represent a lost science or an advanced, even extraterrestrial technology has captured the imagination of many, though it remains outside the mainstream of academic thought. There is also the intriguing question of the inscriptions on the pillar. While they contain valuable historical information about the Gupta Empire, the possibility remains that there is more encoded within the text. Could the Sanskrit inscriptions contain hidden messages or codes waiting to be deciphered? Some cryptographers have suggested that there might be deeper layers to the text, hidden messages that were meant to be discovered only by those with the right knowledge. This idea ties into the larger mystery of the pillar itself. What if the monument was designed not only to commemorate a king, but also to preserve and transmit ancient knowledge, perhaps even in a way that would be accessible only to a select few? There is, of course, a more grounded explanation. Many scholars believe that the Iron Pillar of Delhi was built simply as a tribute to King Chandragupta II, celebrating his reign and reinforcing the Gupta Empire's power and cultural achievements. The pillar might have been intended to symbolize the endurance of the empire, with its rust-free iron standing as a metaphor for the longevity and strength of the Gupta dynasty. The inscriptions, while historically valuable, may have served a dual purpose, not only to record the events of the time, but also to assert the power of the ruler and the empire. In this context, the Iron Pillar would be less a mysterious artifact and more a conventional monument, celebrating the ideals of the Gupta Empire and its divine right to rule. Yet even within this more conventional interpretation, there is something undeniably enigmatic about the pillar. Its composition, its design, and its longevity all point to a level of knowledge that was far ahead of its time. The mystery of the Iron Pillar, then, may not lie in its purpose, but in the fact that it forces us to reconsider what we think we know about the technological capabilities of ancient civilizations. How much more advanced were they than we have previously believed? What knowledge was passed down, and what was lost to the sands of time? The Iron Pillar of Delhi remains an enduring symbol of ancient India's achievements, but it also stands as a puzzle, one that continues to captivate and confound us. What secrets does it still hold? Was it merely a monument to a king, or is it a key to unlocking a deeper mystery? One that connects the ancient past to the hidden knowledge that remains just beyond our reach. As we look at the rust-free surface of the pillar, standing firm and timeless, we are reminded that some answers may always remain elusive, buried in the coded inscriptions, the iron itself, or perhaps even in the very earth beneath our feet. In the heart of the Indian subcontinent, nestled between the meandering rivers of the Indus and the Ghaggar Hakra, lies a mystery that has captivated scholars and intrigued adventurers for over a century: the enigmatic script of the Indus Valley civilization. This ancient writing system, found inscribed on seals, pottery, and other artifacts, offers a tantalizing glimpse into one of the world's earliest urban cultures. Yet despite decades of study and exploration, the Indus Valley script remains undeciphered, its meanings locked away in symbols that have yet to reveal their secrets. The Indus Valley civilization, one of the world's earliest urban societies, flourished between 3,300 and 1300 BC in what is now modern-day Pakistan and northwestern India. Known for its advanced urban planning, sophisticated drainage systems, and large, well-organized cities such as Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, this ancient culture was a marvel of engineering and ingenuity. But as much as we know about the civilization's physical achievements, its meticulously planned cities, its skillful craftsmanship in pottery and metallurgy, and its thriving trade networks, we know almost nothing about its written language. The Indus script, which appears on hundreds of seals and tablets, is composed of a series of symbols that resemble pictographs, with some elements that might suggest the use of phonetic symbols. Yet, despite the sheer number of inscriptions found, none have been definitively translated. The script remains as elusive as the civilization itself, its purpose and structure still an enigma, even as it lies in plain view, silently etched into the surface of ancient artifacts. These inscriptions, often no longer than a few dozen symbols long, are found on a variety of materials: stone seals, pottery shards, copper tablets, and even small figurines. Most of the seals bear animal motifs, such as the iconic unicorn, a creature whose meaning has eluded scholars, alongside a series of abstract characters that appear again and again, suggesting a systematic language. The seals themselves are small, usually about 2 to 4 inches square, and often feature images of animals like elephants, tigers, and rhinoceroses, along with geometric shapes and lines. In some cases, the symbols seem to form repeating patterns, hinting at some kind of structure, but they defy easy classification. The discovery of the Indus script dates back to the 1920s, when British archaeologists, working in the ruins of Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, first uncovered the seals and tablets inscribed with these mysterious symbols. Since then, scholars have attempted to crack the code, using linguistic, statistical, and even computer-based methods to analyze the symbols, but to no avail. With no known bilingual inscriptions to guide their interpretations, linguists have had little more than the symbols themselves to work with, and their attempts to assign meaning to the characters have produced no conclusive results. At the heart of the mystery lies a fundamental question. What exactly was the purpose of the Indus script? Was it a fully developed written language, capable of conveying complex ideas and narratives? Or was it something simpler, perhaps a system of symbols used for trade or administrative purposes, a kind of proto-writing? Many scholars believe the latter, suggesting that the Indus script may have been used primarily for record-keeping or marking ownership of goods, rather than for the literary or religious texts that characterize other ancient scripts. However, there is no clear evidence to support this hypothesis, and the absence of longer texts leaves the question open. Could the script have been a means of communicating something more profound, something that remains beyond our reach? One of the key challenges in understanding the Indus script is the sheer lack of context. Unlike the writing systems of Egypt or Mesopotamia, which are well documented and whose meanings can be understood through bilingual inscriptions and deciphered languages, the Indus script is isolated. The civilization left no known written records in a language that we can compare the script to, and there are no surviving examples of literature or religious texts. The script's short length, most inscriptions consist of only a few characters, also makes it difficult to identify grammatical structures or syntactical rules that could lead to a more complete understanding of its meaning. Without these contextual clues, the script remains an unsolved puzzle, one that tantalizes us with the possibility of knowledge just beyond our grasp. Despite this, many attempts have been made to decipher the script. Some researchers have suggested that the Indus script may be related to other ancient languages of the region, such as Dravidian or even ancient Sumerian. Linguists have examined the symbols for patterns that could suggest phonetic or syllabic elements, while others have looked for recurring phrases or symbols that might indicate grammatical structures. So far, however, none of these attempts have led to a breakthrough. The sheer number of symbols, around 400 distinct signs, makes the task of decoding the script all the more daunting, and without a known linguistic connection, the path forward is obscured. One of the more intriguing theories, however, comes from the field of statistical analysis. In the 1990s, researchers began applying computer-based methods to the study of the Indus script, using algorithms to look for patterns in the frequency and distribution of symbols. This approach, known as computational linguistics, has yielded some interesting results. For example, some researchers have suggested that the repetition of certain symbols may indicate that the script contains elements of both logographic, where symbols represent words, and syllabic writing, where symbols represent sounds. Such a combination would be highly unusual in ancient scripts, adding another layer of complexity to the puzzle. One fascinating, if highly speculative theory suggests that the Indus script may not be a script at all, but rather a form of proto-graphic communication, a precursor to written language that existed purely as a system of symbolic representation rather than a fully phonetic or alphabetic system. This theory posits that the script may have been used to communicate abstract concepts or ideas, such as ownership, authority, or religious affiliation, through a system of iconic symbols rather than words or sounds. According to this view, the lack of decipherable linguistic content in the script could reflect the fact that it was never meant to be fully read in the way we understand writing today. Instead, it was a form of social or administrative shorthand, a way to mark goods, transactions, or sacred symbols. Yet, despite the many theories and the numerous attempts to crack the code, the Indus Valley script remains stubbornly impervious to full understanding. What's more, the eventual discovery of its meaning might shed light not only on the civilization itself, but also on its cultural, religious, and societal structures. If the script could be decoded, it might reveal insights into the day-to-day lives of the people who built the grand cities of Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, the nature of their economy and trade, and their spiritual beliefs. It might tell us what their rulers thought was important, what they feared, and how they expressed their understanding of the world. There are those who suggest that we may never fully decipher the script, and that it may be a mystery that lies forever beyond our grasp. Perhaps the key to understanding the Indus Valley civilization is not in its script, but in its material culture, the well-planned streets, the intricate seals, the elaborate bathhouses. The Indus people may have communicated in ways we do not yet understand, ways that did not rely on written language at all. Could the Indus Valley script have been a symbolic language that was never meant to be understood by outsiders, even in the ancient world? Or was it a writing system that, like so many other aspects of the Indus civilization, simply faded into obscurity as the culture itself disappeared? As we look at the small engraved seals and tablets that remain, bearing the mysterious symbols of the Indus Valley script, we are reminded of the limitations of our own knowledge. Despite the many advances in archaeology and linguistics, there is still so much we do not understand about this ancient civilization, and perhaps the deeper mystery is not just in the script itself, but in the fact that it eludes us, challenging us to rethink our assumptions about the history of writing and the ways in which knowledge can be transmitted. The Indus Valley script remains an unsolved enigma, its secrets still locked away, waiting for someone, or something, to finally unlock them. What does the script tell us about the civilization that created it? And what, if anything, do its symbols reveal about a culture that continues to slip further into the mists of time? The answers, it seems, may lie just beyond the reach of our current understanding, waiting for the right breakthrough, or perhaps a new perspective, to bring them to light.